Welcome, everyone. Today we're going to look at some strategies that would be helpful in an educational system, whether you're in the classroom, the front office, the counselor's office, or anywhere in that building. So we hope these strategies can help make the important and much needed work you do every single day a little easier and provide you a few more tools for your toolkit. A big thank you to the Ohio School-Based Center of Excellence, Prevention, and Early Intervention through Miami University for this wonderful and exciting opportunity. It is our goal today that our strategies will help us regulate, which will help our students regulate, which will help both of us relate together better so that together we can educate. This will help us balance brains for learning because, as you know, and you live with this every day, students don't show up balanced and ready to learn. We live in a toxically stressful world, and that toxic stress follows them right into the classroom. So today we're going to explore some strategies to help all of us regulate, relate, and educate. Whenever I'm learning something new, it helps me to remember this inspiration from Maya Angelou. We did then what we knew to do, and now that we know better, we do better. Thank you, Dr. Maya Angelou, for coming with us on this educational journey and keeping us focused on the gifts we have yet to offer that we are still learning about. Finding Hope is all about the neuroscience of both trauma and resilience. So I like to define resilience so we're all working from the same definition. There's many definitions of resilience out there. I like to use one from Harvard Medical School by Dr. Gregory Frashone, and his research has shown that resilience is adaptability, the ability to adapt to a variety of settings. We often think of resilience as bouncing back. What Dr. Frashone found was that we never really go back in time. We don't bounce back, but we can learn from that experience and then find a way to adapt in the next environment. So when we talk about resilience, we're going to talk about adaptation, how you can take your life experiences, learn from them, and use them to create the life you want instead of unintentionally recreating the life you came from. Later, you will hear one of our youth talk about the day she woke up and realized she was recreating the life that her parents came from and that she was taken from when she was taken into foster care. And with the help of a safe, supportive adult, she began to adapt to new experiences in safer environments and has created a whole new life for herself, and in turn has used that energy to create a youth advisory board that is now helping to change lives all across the state of Ohio. And in fact, our actors today will be members of that youth advisory board. So let's look at 5 resilience factors. One is called agency. Agency is a fancy name for power with. How do we have power with others instead of power over others? You will notice in many of the vignettes that we do, we will work with people, not telling people what to do, but joining them where they are and working with them. Power with gets you to a safe flock where people are doing things because they can see how their actions matter and contribute, as opposed to a submit response where people are just giving in. And the problem with submit is the next level of safety up is fight. So many of the youth in our schools are caught in what's called a submit-fight cycle, where they are submitting, and then when they get the next level of safety up, they fight, then people are like, stop it, stop it, stop it, and they submit, and they get caught there. We're going to lift them up with agency, power with, to help them have the best opportunity possible for a safe flock. The next resilience factor we're going to look at is self-esteem. Self-esteem, like resilience, has many different definitions. So we use the definition developed by a research team called the Rosenbergs. They're a husband-wife team, and they break self-esteem down into 3 components. 1, your sense of self, which are your personal preferences, which we often think, what's the big deal? Well, without an opinion, you never learn to say no. So one of the first things a violent person does is take away the value of your opinion. So one of the greatest gifts we can give youth is just to notice their opinion, even if we don't agree with it. And we'll look at reflect, honor, and connect as a way to do that. The next part of self-esteem is self-worth. When do I feel loved and valued? You'll actually get to hear one of our youth talk about how her first experience of being loved and valued was the day she was brought into foster care. And as she ran from the children's services worker, her school counselor held her and let her cry and said, I will be with you as you go through this. She said it's the first time she remembers being held and that someone allowed her to cry. She doesn't ever remember being told, I love you. So now with her own children, she makes sure she says that multiple times a day. The third part of self-esteem is self-efficacy. How do I affect change? How do I make things happen in a positive way? This is something you're going to want to keep in mind when you have those kids that are labeled oppositional defiant. Oppositional defiant children, 1, are often slow processors. And so the fear center puts them into a frightening fight response with their shoulders back and their eyes glaring, while their lower regions of their brain have them frozen so they can spend all their energy trying to process. But if we can breathe with them, we can help them get through that. Another way we can help them is to highlight how they make things happen in a positive way. Our oppositional defiant youth have learned to make things happen by irritating people, by saying no, by not doing what they're told. So whenever we can flip that script and highlight how they've contributed and they've made something happen by their actions in a positive way, we are literally helping their brain heal and building the self-efficacy that they are missing. Our third resilience factor is called external supports. External supports are anything that give you a sense of felt safety. For many of us, it's our friends, our family, our loved ones. In one of our vignettes, you will hear one of our youth talk about she goes and holds a teddy bear. And when she holds that teddy bear, she can squeeze it as tightly as she wants. And that gives her a sense of felt safety. That too is an external support. Another external support we can create for ourselves is to create in our mind a safe person who's with us always. This is the work of a researcher named Peter Fonagy. And Peter Fonagy worked with people who came from very challenging lives and were often labeled as untreatable. And he discovered that when he normalized that no parent is perfect, so if you have a parent that's not meeting your needs, how do you create one in your mind that does meet your needs? Because that parent goes with you everywhere. So this is another example of an external support. We can literally use our imagination to create the safety we might be lacking in the real world. And our brain is so amazing, it will respond as if that safety is actually happening. It's the power behind rewriting a nightmare. The brain responds to the new ending. The fourth resilience factor we're going to look at is affiliation. It's being part of a group larger than yourself. You will hear later one of our actors talk about what got her through foster care was being a part of everything she could be a part of at school, from sports to clubs and everything else. That sense of being on a team gave her a sense of family, a sense of a safe flock. And now she's found a team in the Youth Advisory Board, and she's found another solid family in that team. So affiliation, feeling a part of something larger than yourself, is really important to all of us. And finally, the number one resilience factor, and it counts for 80% of all resiliency, is all of you. Safe connection with someone in a position of authority. Yes, you may not feel like you have power, but every single one of you are in a position of authority with the youth that you serve and support. You will hear every single one of our actors today talk about connection with a safe person at school and how it's one of the things that help them become who they are today and help keep them going when things were very painful all around them. So thank you for the work you're already doing to be a safe other for those that you serve and support. And hopefully today will give you more tools in your toolkit to make that job just a little bit easier, because it's never easy. But anything we can do to help keep you going, that's what we're here for. Did you know that stress comes in 3 flavors? Positive, tolerable, and toxic. Knowing that and knowing the difference between those 3 has helped me as I navigate a very stressful world. In fact, it's helped me know that I can do things that can move toxic stress into tolerable stress and tolerable stress into positive stress. So let's look at what the difference is between these 3 types of stress and what we can do to move ourselves into the one that we can be in the most impactfully and effectively. We can do the same then for those that we are teaching. So, positive stress is stress that is brief. It increases your heart rate, it releases some stress hormones, and it helps you be interested in things, it helps you be motivated, and it helps you focus. This literally is the science behind the use of stimulants to help with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. In fact, what those stimulants are doing is releasing some of your stress hormones, increasing your heart rate so that you will be more interested, more motivated, and better able to focus. However, the challenge is when we confuse hyperactivity with hypervigilance, because hypervigilance comes from an inability to focus because you already have too many stress chemicals in your system. So when we give you more to help you focus, we can actually flip you into aggression or depression with the best of intentions. They look exactly the same on the outside, but the research shows that inside the brain, very different parts of the brain are impacted. In hyperactivity, the cortex is more involved, and in hypervigilance, the limbic system on down is more involved. So if we have someone who's hypervigilant and can't focus, and we mistake it for hyperactivity and give them some stimulants, it's like saying to someone who's had too much coffee, no problem, I got this. I'm just going to give you more coffee. Doesn't really work so well. So I want you to be looking for that. If the aggression or depression increases or appears out of nowhere, we may have confused hypervigilance with hyperactivity, which is why it's very important to finish those terms, because if you go into a doctor's office and you say they're hyper, people always assume hyperactivity, not hypervigilance, which is driven by anxiety. So our positive stress is what we need to be in an optimal learning zone. Then we have tolerable stress. Tolerable stress is serious, it's temporary, and it's buffered by safe, supportive relationships. It also has a very clear beginning, middle, and end. That's how our brain knows that it's temporary. It knows where the beginning, the middle, and the end is coming. Very helpful. When I was in school, math class, that was my barely tolerable stress. I was not very good at it. And so I remember watching the clock, X number of minutes till I could leave. I mapped that class out with a very clear beginning, middle, and end. It helped me get through a lot of math classes. The next stress, however, is called toxic stress. This is stress that does not have a clear beginning, middle, and end. and is often not buffered by safe, supportive relationships. Unfortunately, in 2020, the entire world got an experience of toxic stress when the pandemic hit, because not only did we have no idea what the beginning, middle, and end of this would look like, we also were being told to stay distant from those who supported us so we could keep each other physically well. So the paradox of the pandemic, as Stephen Porges calls it, is that under stress, humans want to go toward other people. Those are those safe buffering relationships that can turn toxic stress into tolerable stress. We couldn't do that, especially at the beginning of the pandemic, when we did not even know how this disease was transmitted. If you will notice, over time, people found creative and safe ways to connect. I remember having many happy hours with friends online. I remember celebrating holidays and birthdays online with family members. And I will never forget our first picnic where my cousin came over because she has a very well-defined sense of math, unlike me. And she made sure we were all 6.5 feet apart from one another so we could be totally safe. So we found ways to connect and get that buffering in there. Unfortunately, there was not a clear beginning, middle, and end to that at the time. In fact, we kept hoping we were seeing endings and then would be disappointed again. So one thing science has taught us is that when we're in a situation where there's not a clear beginning, middle, and end, if we can notice something that does have a clear beginning, middle, and end, it can be very calming to our system. I think every educator does this. Every time a bell rings, you get another message about where you are in the day. Am I at the beginning, the end of the beginning of the middle, the middle of the middle, the end of the middle? Am I beginning of the end? Am I at the middle of the end or the end of the end? Depending on how much you need to break it down. But those bells signal to you, as well as to our students, where we are in that day. This is where visual schedules can be so helpful, so youth can see where we are in the day. And remember, the part of our brain that helps us regulate and relate thinks in pictures, as does the part of our brain that we're trying to educate. So whenever you use pictures in visual schedules, especially if they're pictures of the students, if the students will let you do that, it really helps calm the brain. Now, some of our teenagers might not find that so fun, but you will know if you have a class that would like to create with you the visual schedule for the day and have pictures of themselves going through that visual schedule. So these are our 3 flavors of stress, and we're going to explore them together with some youth today. Now we're going to look at an intervention that puts calming at your fingertips. My friend Sarah likes to call interventions like this pocket practices because you can carry them with you in your pocket. So here's how we do it, and feel free to do it with me. We're going to think of 3 of our strengths, or 3 gratitudes, or a simple prayer or mantra that has 3 words. Your choice. When you've got those, we're going to repeat each word separately and tap a finger to a thumb. So, if I were to pick 3 of my gratitudes, it would be my friends, my family, my work. Friends, family, work. Friends, family, work. Friends, family, work. So after we say them 3 times, we're going to notice our breath, go back and do it again, and then notice our breath again. So let's do it together. Then I'll explain what we've just done to coordinate all the way from our cortex through our vagus nerve. And think of your 3 words and go. For me, it's friends, family, work. I am grateful for my friends. I am grateful for my family, and I love my work. I am grateful for my friends. I am grateful for my family, and I love my work. I'm grateful for my friends. I'm grateful for my family, and I love my work. Now just notice your breath. Notice where the strengths you named, or the gratitudes, or the prayer or mantra, notice where they show up in your being when you're noticing your breath. For me, I feel an expanded chest. My throat opens up a little. The knot I tend to carry around in my stomach loosens a little. I just feel a bit more relaxed. Now we're going to do it again. I am grateful for my friends. I'm grateful for my family, and I love my work. I'm grateful for my friends. I'm grateful for my family, and I love my work. I'm grateful for my friends. I'm grateful for my family, and I love my work. Once again, just return to noticing your breath and where those words settle in your being. So, since our vagus nerve makes sense of the world, records memory, and interacts with the world through body sensations by touching a finger to a thumb and connecting a word to it, because that's how our cortex makes sense of the world, we have now coordinated our brain from our cortex all the way through our vagus nerve. So our entire brain and body is coordinated. What's magical about this is, going forward, we don't have to remember those 3 words. If you just touch a finger to your thumb, you'll get that feeling back in your being that you had when you named those 3 words. So as we said, this is a pocket practice. The reason it attaches in this way is because the best way to build a new neural connection, so to get a new connection growing, is 3 repetitions, dopamine. So when we notice our breath helps keep us alive. When we do anything that helps keep us alive, we get dopamine. Then we repeat it again and get dopamine again. So 3 repetitions, dopamine, 3 repetitions, dopamine. Anytime you use that pattern, that's a signal to your brain to get a new neural connection started. If you've ever worked with people who struggle with obsessive compulsive disorder, or even just obsessive or compulsive actions, they usually do those actions in sets of 3. They usually don't know why they're doing them in sets of 3, but science has now taught us that every time they finish something in a set of 3, they're getting dopamine. Dopamine is a calming chemical for the brain and body. So, welcome to a pocket practice. I hope you carry it with you and it helps you wherever you go. I call this strategy the 60-second technique for brain change. It is adapted from the work of Reggie Melrose. Reggie Melrose has a wonderful 60-second technique that is very similar to this. You can find online, and it helps with test anxiety. So this will help with test anxiety, and it can help in a variety of other settings as well. So the very first thing we do in our 60-second technique is to just feel your feet on the floor. It really helps your brain to feel something solid beneath you that's very grounding and calming to your fear center. It tells your fear center where you are in space. And when your fear center gets activated, it takes you out of where you are in space because it thinks you might need to do something dangerous, and it's trying to numb your pain system. This is often why people who get extremely angry seem to get superhuman strength, because their pain system turns off. We can help them notice and feel something grounding. This is where weighted blankets, or in school we often give youth backpacks to carry from one place to another, can be very grounding. So we're going to ground right now through our feet. Then we're also going to notice the support we're getting from the chair or wherever we are sitting. So just notice your body relaxing into the floor, into your seat. Now we're going to draw energy from the earth and allow it to come into our being. We're engaging our vagus nerve right now, and we're allowing our vagus nerve and our fear center to both calm and regulate and work together. Now we're going to get our limbic system and cortex involved by imagining our favorite place. Remember, the limbic system makes sense of the world. That's our fear center through pictures and body sensations. So we've already engaged it through the grounding. Now we're also engaging it through picture. The cortex makes sense of the world through pictures and words. So we're connecting with the cortex now through the picture of your favorite place. And then finally, we are going to use a word. Name for yourself how you are feeling, and know that all feelings are welcome. It's interesting, when all feelings are welcome, sometimes the feelings that challenge us the most often don't show up, or if they do, they're not as challenging because they feel welcome. So I walked us through the brain science of it. Now let's just do it together. Get comfortable in your seat. Feel your feet on the floor. Feel the solidness of this floor. Feel how you are being supported wherever you are sitting. Now let's draw some energy from all the support we're receiving, especially from the earth through our feet, and let that just fill our being. And as we're filled with this solidness, this sense of connection and grounding, take a moment and think of your favorite place on earth, a place that brings you joy and comfort. And now just say one feeling that you are having to yourself. Thank you. Welcome to the 60-second technique. We're going to look now at how we can use our hand as a model for the brain. What's the point of this? Well, the point of this is it allows us to take neurobiology and use it in a manner that helps other people understand what's driving some of their actions and what's driving our actions and how we can work better together. So this is the work of Daniel Siegel. I also pull in the work of Stephen Porges and the vagus nerve into this. So if your hand was a brain, between your wrist and your elbow would be your spinal column. And coming off of your spinal column is the vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve wraps around every organ of your body, literally from the tip of your head to the tips of your toes and all the organs in between. And it sends your feelings to every organ in your body. It does this so that our body and our brain can be connected. Before 2010, when Stephen Porges released his book, The Polyvagal Theory, we actually thought our thoughts drove our actions. And now we know that our thoughts can impact how we feel in our body, but how we feel in our body is what drives our actions. In fact, this vagus nerve is actually a two-way superhighway. So how we feel in our body can impact our thoughts, and our thoughts can impact how we feel in our body. So as we do all of these activities today, the goal will be to coordinate the vagus nerve and the cortex so that the entire brain is coordinated and working together. The next part of our brain is the brainstem. It's in charge of everything we don't want to have to think about. Breathing, digestion, bladder and bowel control. It's also in charge of our hunger response. And many youth that we serve and support have something called food insecurity. Food insecurity gets in the way of being able to learn. So our brainstem, which still thinks we're living in a cave in the Serengeti, wants a very particular type of food because it doesn't know there's a Kroger's right down the street. It doesn't know we've got a car that can drive us to the Kroger's. It doesn't know we live in a house with central heat and air conditioning. So the brainstem wants high-fat food to hold fat on our body so when it's cold out and we don't have central heat in that cave, we can keep ourselves as warm as possible. It wants high salt food, so on days when it's not raining or we can't find a lake or a river nearby, it can hold water in our cells. And it wants high carbohydrate or high sugar food so that we have quick burning energy to run down our food or outrun our food if it decides to eat us. This means that youth with food insecurity will actually fight over junk food. Yes, and many times that's very frustrating to us because it doesn't make sense. But they're getting a signal from their brainstem that if they don't get this junk food, they won't survive. This is not an excuse, but it's a context that can help you help a youth. So you will see in one of our vignettes that we have a youth who struggles after recess. And what we discovered is after recess, this youth goes into food insecurity. So we came up with a way to give that youth some food that will be slow burning to help get them through the rest of the school day. The next part of our brain we're going to look at is the limbic system. It is this tiny little thumb on our hand brain. And in our real brain, it's in the center of our brain. If you follow in Frankenstein's bolts to the center of his brain, you'd find an almond-shaped organ in there, and that is called the limbic system. And the limbic system is in charge of three really important things that spell the word FAR. It's in charge of felt safety. I sometimes call that the fear center. It's in charge of attachment, which helps us not just attach to loved ones, but it helps us work cooperatively with others, and it gives us empathy. And finally, it helps us regulate. So it spells the word FAR, felt safety, attachment, regulation. This part of the brain wants things to happen in that order from 6 months gestation to the first 18 months of life. So if, like many of our actors that we'll be seeing today and many of the youth you serve and support, if they didn't get felt safety in those first 6 months gestation to 18 months of life, the attachment center didn't grow in very well. And if the attachment center doesn't grow in, the regulation center doesn't grow in. That's the bad news. I will never give you bad news without giving you good news. The good news is after 18 months of life, the brain doesn't care what order it gets felt safety, attachment, or regulation in. It will literally grow the missing parts. And I have an example for when I was a teacher. I had a young man who could not sit still to save his life. Woo! I was a second grade teacher, and no one could get on a desk faster than Steve. We're going to call him Steve. Woohoo! And Steve could jump from desk to desk. That is like a teacher's nightmare. Like, I can just see him falling, my career is over. So Steve and I were always working very hard to give him safe things to do with all this energy that Steve had. One year, about 10 years later, a young man comes to my classroom and says, "Ms. Vicario, do you remember me?" What second graders forget is that when they go through puberty, they don't look anything like they looked when they were second graders. And so I was like, "Oh, I'm sure I remember you. Can you remind me your name, though?" And he goes, "It's Steve." And here was Steve in a military uniform with a lovely woman by his side and an adorable child. And he goes, "Ms. Vicario, I joined the military, and every day I knew when my food was coming, when I was going to get to sleep, what I was going to do the next day, and how it was going to help." He goes, "It was life-changing for me. And then I relaxed, and then I fell in love, and now I have a family, and so I'm trying to give my son the things that I didn't have. I want him to know what his day is going to look like. I want him to know that he is loved. I want him to know that there are safe things he can do with his energy." And so Steve didn't get what he needed till he was in his late teens and early 20s in the military. And what he got was structure that allowed him to regulate, which then allowed him to attach and create a family, the type of family he wished he had grown up in. So you are never too old to have a happy childhood, and you're never too old to heal your limbic system. It is the part of the human brain most able to be regrown. We will look later at something called the fear cascade or the response cascade. And this fear response cascade is what happens when the limbic system's in charge, because when the limbic system decides not safe, takes the next part of our brain offline. Let's look at that next part. That is the cortex, or our thinking brain. Now, this is the only part of our brain that has a timestamp and that we have conscious control over. It's in charge of all those executive function skills that people need to succeed at school. They need to be able to organize. They need to be able to execute action, turn their thoughts into action. If you are here watching this video, you can execute action. But many of the youth we serve and support cannot execute action, and they don't know why. They can tell you exactly what they're supposed to do, but they don't know what gets in the way. And this is one of the challenges of toxic levels of stress. It disconnects the cortex from the rest of the brain and grows the limbic system extra large. So you overread threat and your ability to respond rationally to it decreases. That's the bad news. The good news is this is the part of the brain second most able to be regrown. So every strategy that we are showing you not only helps regulate and connect the entire brain, it helps regrow and calm the limbic system and regrow and build the cortex. The cortex only gets to work when the fear center gives it permission. And when the fear center says, no, this is not safe, it takes your thinking brain offline because it doesn't want you thinking while you're running wildly through the woods to outrun that saber-toothed tiger. It just wants you going as fast as you can go. So when that happens, the limbic system's in charge. It often takes you out of where you are in space so you don't feel pain, which can give our youth superhuman strength, or their parents, or even us. We've all heard stories of moms who literally have lifted a car off their baby when something terrible has happened. That is the limbic system doing its job, taking away your sense of pain, taking you out of where you are in space, which is how it takes away your sense of pain, so that you can do something that normally you cannot do. When your thinking brain is offline and the fear center's in charge, that's usually when unsafe behavior occurs. So we're going to look at how do we get that thinking brain back online? And how do we help youth whose thinking brains are offline most of the day because of experience that have occurred long before they arrived in your classroom? How can we help your classroom, your school, become their safe place where they can learn to adapt to safe environments and have their thinking brain online more and more every day? You will notice in the vignettes that I don't go into this level of science with the parents or the students, or sometimes even the teachers, because we want to use language that will make sense for the situation in which they find themselves. So oftentimes I talk about the acting brain, which encompasses the vagus nerve, the brainstem, and the limbic system, and the thinking brain, which is the cortex. Or you will hear Shantia Miller talk about the primitive brain, the protection brain, and the adult brain. And she's describing very clearly the brainstem and vagus nerve as the primitive brain, the limbic system as the protection brain, and the cortex as the adult brain. So there's a variety of ways you can adapt this so that it makes sense and can connect to the situation in which you and whoever you're trying to support with this concept are working together. We're doing all of this so that you can show up as regulated as possible. Because when you show up regulated, the youth around you have a better chance of regulating themselves. In fact, when we're within 6 feet of a regulated person, that helps all of our brains and bodies regulate. Have you ever worked with a student or maybe your own child who just wants you to sit near them while they're doing their homework? How many times did I think, oh my gosh, what a waste of my time? And then I learned the science of, if I'm within 6 feet of them and I am regulated, I'm actually helping their brain regulate. So I don't need to say anything. So I learned very quickly from one of my professors that I need to just bring my homework and sit side by side and work with the youth who needed to regulate. And over time, it will literally grow the structures in their brain so they don't need you to continue to be within 6 feet of them. Or we can give them something called a transitional object, something that reminds them of us to help them remember what it feels like when we're close to them so they can regulate. We want them to regulate because once we regulate, then we can relate to one another And once we relate, then together we can reason. And with the best of intentions, when you walk into that classroom, you are in a position of authority, even if you feel like you don't have very much power at all. But when you walk in a position of authority, for youth who have not been treated safely by other people in positions of authority, it can take their thinking brain offline. It has nothing to do with you, but it will be acted out on you. So when you can show up regulated, you give those youth the best chance possible to remain regulated or to get regulated so that together they can relate and all of you can reason. To balance brains for learning, we must regulate ourselves so those around us can feel safe enough to regulate, which will allow us to relate, which means work cooperatively together, which then allows us to educate. So we must regulate so we can relate, which allows us to educate. Hello, Ms. Jaleisha. Thank you so much for coming in today.
Yes, thank you for making time to meet with me.
Yes, I'm sorry you had to come in, but I do appreciate you taking the time to let me know something's not working for you.
Yes.
Yes, please help me understand.
Okay, so my son, he has ADHD, and I feel like teachers aren't able to really accommodate that and redirect. I feel like they're trying to do kind of a one size fits all thing, and they're not realizing that my son does have some special needs, and we don't need giant accommodations, but just some room to work together and do what's best for him. But it seems like kicking him out of the classroom seems to be the easier solution and not dealing with him altogether, and he's missing a lot of class time when a easier redirect could be taking place. We just all need to get on the same page to do that.
Okay, so it sounds like your son's got some energy.
Yes.
Yes. and sometimes that energy gets the best of the classroom.
Yes.
And he's escorted out of the classroom.
Yes, ma'am.
You would like him to stay in the classroom and have us have some ways to work
Yes.
more effectively with
Yes.
your son. I really appreciate you taking the time to come in here and let me know, and for your patience in letting me know, because sometimes I know when you come, you have to come get your child all the time. Your patience is gone.
Yes, I have to leave work in the middle of my workday, make other accommodations. It's very inconvenient.
Yes, yes. And you're like, I think I sent my kid to school to learn. How do I make this happen?
Yes, ma'am.
I love the idea of us having a chance to work together to figure this out. So there's something that I love to teach youth, but I also like to teach their parents and their teachers.
Okay.
Because it can help us all have a similar language and a similar understanding of what's going on.
Okay.
You said very clearly that your son has ADHD, which is a fancy label for someone who has a lot of energy.
Yes.
Yes. So I like to use this thing called the hand brain.
Okay.
Okay? So I'm going to explain it to you, and then you and I are going to figure out what would be the best way to teach it to your son.
Okay.
And then I can also explore with you what I think might be the best way to teach it to his teacher and how we could help them learn to use this tool together.
Awesome.
Okay. So if your hand was a brain, between your wrist and your elbow here would be your spinal column, right down the back of your back. And it is sending your feelings to every organ in your body.
Okay.
And those feelings are what drive your actions. And your son is having a lot of big feelings
Yes.
that are giving him a lot of energy.
Yes.
And so he is burning that energy even when we need him to be sitting still. The next part of our brain is the brain stem. It's represented by the palm of our hand,
Okay.
but it sits right back here.
Okay.
And this brain stem is in charge of everything we don't want to have to think about. Like right now, if I was trying to teach you the hand brain and remembering to breathe, I'd probably pass out right in front of you, okay? So he seems to be doing, his brain stem seems to be doing just fine.
Yes.
It keeps him going.
Yes.
Even sometimes when we'd like it to calm him down.
Yes.
So we can work with that. The next part is this little thumb here, and it rests in the center of our brain. And this little thumb helps us feel safe, attach, which in a classroom looks like working cooperatively with others.
Right.
and regulate,
Okay.
which is calming himself. Now, these three sections I often call for youth your acting brain.
Okay.
And we sometimes represent it by a lion or a tiger, something that has a lot of energy but can also be nurturing.
Yes.
So, giant cats nurture their young, but they will also
Rip your head off.
rip your head off. You come near those young. That's right. So it's got that nurturing energy for the attachment, but it's also got the felt safety energy.
Okay.
And it's got to regulate sometimes because it's got to lay low when it's hunting.
Right.
So we call this the acting brain. This is the part of the brain we do have conscious control over. It wraps around that little limbic system. I like to tell kids it's giving your fear center a hug. It's giving your lion a hug. And I sometimes call this the wise old owl, because this is the part of the brain that says, oh, I got to slow down, but I got extra energy. What am I going to do with it? It's the part that lets you think.
Right. Okay.
So we want to get his thinking brain online more often and keep it online more often.
Okay.
Yes. You got it. It's like a fist
Hook my
that
fear
you would
center.
never want to punch someone with because it'll break your thumb. Yes. What kind of animals does he like?
All animals. He really likes dinosaurs, but he loves all animals.
Great. So he likes dinosaurs.
Yes.
What kind of birds does he like?
He likes pigeons.
He likes pigeons.
He does like
Okay.
pigeons.
Wow. Here's a little fun fact I just learned. Pigeons and doves are the same birds.
Wow.
Isn't that funny? I know.
Didn't know
We
that.
have strongly different feelings about pigeons and doves.
Yes.
Yeah, so his pigeon or his dove, whatever he wants to call it,
Mm-hmm.
can land on the dinosaur's shoulder
Uh-huh.
and help the dinosaur calm down.
Okay.
Maybe even whisper in the dinosaur's ear. When we get home, we can... What are some of his things he likes to do at home?
He loves to play outside, ride his
We
bike.
can play outside,
Yeah.
ride our bike. Right now, we're gonna sit still. Something else I'd like to teach him is, so when you're got a lot of energy, which riding your bike helps with, it helps if your body can feel some pressure. So if we could teach him maybe to do some little push-ups in his chair.
Yes, and that's kind of inconspicuous. I mean, you can see
Yes.
it, but it's not as big of a distraction
It
as,
is. When he's shoving
doing
the
all of that
desk
stuff.
and running
Yes,
around.
yes.
Yes.
That's actually a really good idea.
Can do some push-ups. He can even push his hands together under the desk and give himself some pressure. He can squeeze some of his joints. All of that helps your body calm down. He can notice his feet on the floor and feel himself in the chair.
Mindfulness.
Yes.
We've been working on it.
Yes, and grounding.
Yes.
Yes. And I think even just your son imagining the dove or the pigeon riding along with his dinosaur friend.
Yeah.
And they're kind of, sitting down to learn from, who's his teacher, by the way?
Miss Mac.
Oh, yeah. So you can just sit down and learn from Mrs. Mac. Miss Mac. Yes. I always marry people off before I'm supposed to. Awesome. So, do you think you would feel comfortable teaching your son some of these things?
Yes, absolutely. I think that could be really helpful.
Great. What if we called in his teacher, Mrs. Mack, and we could teach her a few of these as well, so that we're all learning the same thing?
Yes, I think that's a great idea. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you
Yes.
for coming in and giving us this opportunity.
Yes, ma'am.
And as you know, nothing works perfectly.
Right.
Since nothing works perfectly, I like to think of progress as the ocean. The tide comes in, the tide comes out, but eventually it makes progress.
Yes.
And it ebbs and flows.
I like that.
But when it's coming in, it eventually makes it on.
Yes.
So we're going to remind both your son and the teacher of that. And when he's feeling like he's got a lot of energy, we're going to practice with him.
There's some safe things to do that's more appropriate for that setting. That's
Yes.
a great idea.
Oh, that would be wonderful. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you. I know this is your break time. Thank you for taking some of your break time, Miss Celebrity, so that we could work together on a plan that we'd like to run past you, and hopefully something we can all do together to support Miss Jaleesha's son in your class.
Okay.
Yes. As you know, he has a lot of energy.
Yes, he
Yes,
does.
he does.
Extreme energy.
Yes, and sometimes that energy gets in the way of him learning. So I was talking with Miss Jaleisha about something I would like her to teach her son. It's called the hand brain. And I think you can also help reinforce this if we all learn it together.
Definitely, yes.
So I'm going to give you a streamed down version that we're using with her son, okay? So if your hand was a brain, between your wrist and your elbow is your spinal column. It's got something that sends your feelings to every part of your body, and that's what's driving him, like the Energizer Bunny. The next is your brainstem, represented by the palm of your hand, rests in the back of your head there. It keeps him breathing. Even when you'd like his breathing to slow down a little, it keeps him breathing and going and moving.
Yeah.
And then in the center is something called the limbic system. It's in charge of helping us feel safe, which it's hard to do in a classroom when someone's moving. So we're going to try to help with that. Attach, which also means working cooperatively with others, which is what we're trying to get him to do. And regulate, which is something we also want to try and help him do. These three parts we often call the action brain because they control our actions. We like to represent it as a big, strong animal. So sometimes we use a tiger or a lion. And Mr. Leisha's son loves dinosaurs. So we're going to use a dinosaur for this. And as you know, dinosaurs can be very destructive when they're active.
Certainly.
Yes. Well, this part of the brain is our thinking brain. And it can help calm that dinosaur and slow it down. So we like to represent that often as a calming animal, like a bird. And we discovered that her son likes pigeons. And something you taught me recently is that pigeons and doves are very closely related. At times they're the exact same bird with different coloring. So he can call it a pigeon, he can call it a dove, whatever he wants. But we want to teach his pigeon to land on the shoulder of his acting brain and give him some ideas of things he can do to calm himself that won't disrupt the classroom. So some of those things we thought of are some chair push-ups, because then, yeah, see how calming that is?
It's actually, you're using your brain, you're focusing your brain on something else other than the emotion that you're feeling or
Yes.
something that you're upset
Yes, and when you do that, it actually turns on that concentration center of your brain. You're right.
Yeah.
So that will help him concentrate. Another thing he can do is he can do some squeezing of his joints, does the same thing. If he doesn't want anyone to notice, he can just push his hands together. That can be really calming. Or even feel his feet on the floor. Ooh, feel how solid that floor is. Yes, you can feel his feet on the floor. Now, if he has a ton of energy, I'm wondering, how would it be safe to give him a place to go to and come back from? On those days where this is not enough and he's still, itching to go, I'm wondering if you can have a pack of books ready in a backpack and ask Martin if he can take them down the hall to another teacher. And then the other teacher can get all excited about the books and give him some books to take back to you. You can get all excited about the books because now we've given him deep pressure and we've given him a valued social role. So one of the things we know about ADHD is that you often feel different than other people.
Yes.
And you feel like there's something wrong with you, especially when you're disrupting an entire classroom and you don't know how to stop. So whenever we can give them a valued social role, they will look for that in other settings. And so I want him to look for things where deep pressure helps him calm and feel good about himself. So this is a way we could do that. Would that work for you?
I definitely think that would be a good idea.
Yes, I think we can try it, and I'm figuring we're all going to learn together, including Martin. And as I was saying to Miss Jaleisha, is that when we're learning, it's not like a race where we keep going forward. It's more like the ocean, where the tide comes in, it goes out a little, but the next time it comes in a little further. Goes out a little, next time it comes in a little further. So I figure if the three of us can keep communicating and you can keep practicing things with your son, we can find some ways to help him regulate.
I definitely believe that would be a great idea, and hopefully he will be excited about the role that he's playing in the book delivery.
Yes.
To calm
Awesome.
the ADHD.
Yes,
and
because
the-
you have told me so many times that he loves to be the helper. He loves to help
he
people.
always has a helping hand
Yes.
and always ready to just give his
So
essence
giving.
to help somebody
Yes,
else.
give his essence. Yes.
I like that.
Yes. So let's help him have a way to do that. And whenever you have any other task, especially tasks like that have deep pressure, I'm old. We used to give those kids to erase the chalkboard. I know there's no chalkboards anymore. I'm just
No.
showing my age. So whatever tasks you have, you could clean the desks. That's another way, or things like that. So we'll keep thinking.
Okay.
You keep thinking, and we'll keep communicating.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you both for your time and trying to
Thank you.
help my son so we can make sure he's staying in class, getting some education, and trying to be more a part of his social setting. So,
Thank you for giving us the opportunity to do this.
yes, of course.
Yes. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you
Yes.
for coming.
Thank you.
Felt safety. What is it? Why does it matter? Felt safety is that internal feeling of feeling safe in your body, ease, comfort, security. For some people, the concept of safety is beyond their ability to even comprehend because they haven't lived in safe homes, safe neighborhoods, or even attended safe schools. So felt safety, sometimes we describe as comfort. What helps you feel a little more comfortable? What helps you let your guard down just a little bit? And why does this matter? Because felt safety is at the heart of it all. It provides the stability we need to attach and regulate. Felt safety is the center of that limbic system. It starts it all rolling. Once you feel safe, it allows you to attach. When you attach, you get positive relational moments or positive relational memories, PRMs. Those are what your brain calls on to help you regulate. So think of something that helps you regulate and calm and follow that as far back as you can go. And there's a safe person attached to it. What your body's remembering is the feeling of being with that safe person when you do that thing that helps you regulate. In our tree, felt safety is the root system. And that root system feeds the trunk, it feeds the branches, it feeds the leaves. So it feeds everything we need to attach, work cooperatively with others, and regulate. Felt safety helps us get into our optimal learning zone. So if we're feeling we need to, at the heart of it all, feel safe and comfortable. Sometimes we can feel a little too safe and comfortable and be falling asleep, but we want to feel safe and comfortable as well as challenged, which allows us to learn and develop. If we're feeling challenged but not safe, no learning is occurring. If we're feeling safe without challenge, minimal learning, if any, is occurring. So we need to get those two things working well together. When I feel unsafe, everything shuts down. And in fact, if I feel unsafe enough, I can just freeze and submit and completely check out. You will get to hear one of our youth today, Sapphire, will talk to us about how sometimes that's what got her through the school day. She'd say, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine, when she was anything but fine. We'll get to hear Jaleisha talk about the times she would just tell everyone she was fine, just to make it through the day. That was submit, and that is what we're hoping to not have in our classroom. Even though we want everyone to follow the directions, we want them to follow the directions because they're motivated to do so. Doesn't happen all the time. Life is not perfection. Life is full of mistakes. So we are going to recognize what we've got and see how we can improve it. So when the limbic system takes over and takes the thinking brain offline, something happens that I call the fear cascade. This is actually a metaphor for the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis combined with the vagus nerve. You never need to repeat that to another human being. I just wanted you to know there is actual science behind this. So this is our fear cascade, or sometimes I call it our response cascade. It exists in all of us. Some people don't like to be told that they have a fear cascade. So if that word gets in the way, call it the response cascade. Doesn't matter what you name it. I just want people to understand it. So the most popular topics in the fear cascade are fight or flight. We've all heard of fight or flight. We've heard it over and over and over again. I am now going to introduce you to the rest of the F family. And the rest of the F family starts with flock. Yes, because connection is our greatest need and disconnection is our greatest fear as humans. Thank you, Dr. Amy Banks, for that quote and the neurobiology that proves it's true. So since connection is our greatest need, the very first thing we want to do when our limbic system is in charge, which means the fear center is in charge, when we are afraid, we want to go toward others. All of these things can be done safely or unsafely. So if you come from an environment where you haven't been safe with your primary caregivers, you may flock to unsafe people. You will hear Jaleisha talk about that later today. You may also flock toward safe people. You will hear all of our youth talk about the safe people they found at school that they flocked to. So some of them could have their first experience of safety with an adult. If the brain thinks flocking isn't going to work, then it wants you to flee, wants you to get out of there. So we've got fight or flight backwards, and we're missing the first one, which is flock. So we're gonna flock. If that can't work, then we're gonna flee. You know when they discovered this? In World War I, when more soldiers on both sides of the conflict ran away from the battlefield instead of stayed and fought. Because that's what we're designed to do. We're designed to flee. And we're designed to only fight until we can flee. So it was very difficult to keep soldiers literally on a battlefield prior to World War II, because somewhere between World War I and World War II, we figured out boot camp. And for soldiers, boot camp reverses that. So that soldiers will flock, work together as a team, and fight, and not flee until they are given permission to leave the battlefield. For most of the youth we serve, they may go directly to fight, because they may come from environments where there weren't safe others, or they didn't have a chance to flee. So they may go directly to fight. Once again, this can be done safely or unsafely. You will see in one of our vignettes how we work with youth to help them find a safe way to settle a disagreement, a safe way to fight. Literally, you can disagree with someone and still be safe. And we're going to explore that together in one of our vignettes. All of that comes from the limbic system and is designed for survival. So we want to either flock, we want to flee, which when we're doing it unsafely is running away from something. When we're doing it safely, we're running towards something. So if you have someone who runs randomly out of your classroom or randomly out of the school, if you can practice with them running to a safe place, that can be very helpful. I had a youth who had survived some very extenuating, awful circumstances in her first 6 years of life. And in school, when she'd get frustrated or afraid, she would run right out of the school. And the school's on a very busy street. So one of the things we practiced with her was letting the teacher know she needed a break by she had a little piece of paper she could put up there, because what leaves first? Spontaneous speech. She wasn't going to be able to talk. And then practicing with her getting to the nurse's station. The nurse's station, she had a bag of things she could do to regulate herself until the nurse was free to take her to the gym where they could walk around the gym. She could run off her energy, and then they could do a walk and talk about what got her upset and walk her back to the classroom. Now, when we first proposed this, the teachers are like, she'll be leaving every 5 minutes. I go, she's leaving every 10 minutes as it is, and she's running into traffic. So how about we just try it? And I did not know if it was going to work, but it did work. Because for this youth, that was a novel brain experience. She didn't have to run away to be safe. She could run towards someone, and that helped her regulate, which helped her stay in the classroom longer. And over time, she needed to go to the nurse's station less and less and less. As I said, all of this is coming from the limbic system and is designed for survival. Flock, flee, fight. If those are not going to work, the limbic system gets out of the way, we drop down into that brainstem, and our brainstem gets us ready to die. When our brainstem is actually preparing us to die, the first thing it does is it freezes us. If someone is actually dying, you will see them frozen in a certain position. If you've ever been to a hospice or a nursing home, you might find someone who's in a certain position when you arrive, and they are in that same position when you leave. That is a brain that is in the freeze response because the brainstem is taken over and the rest of the brain is finished doing its work. Over time, as that person's organs shut down, they may curl into a fetal position, but we don't often see that because we want people to die with dignity, so we often prop them up or we lay them out flat. What does this look like when you're not actually dying? Well, on the safe side, it can look like taking a break, watching mindless TV, sitting in a hot tub, anything that helps you relax. It can also look like falling asleep. Every single night, we need to submit to sleep, which is why we call it falling asleep. So on the safe side, we need ways to relax, to downregulate, and hopefully eventually fall asleep. If you have a prayer life or you enjoy poetry or reading, all of these things that help you regulate and let go of some of the stress of the day are your safe, freeze, submit responses. On the unsafe side, what does it look like? It can look like being stuck. When I'm working with IEP teams and they can't seem to agree or we're struggling, I know I have a team that might be in a freeze response. When I'm able to help them identify some of the things that are working well, it's so interesting how that can lift us into a safe fight response. So when you're feeling stuck, if you can think of what's working, that will help your brain get to where it needs to go to have the energy to start looking at solutions again. It can also look like protecting people who have hurt you. Many of our youth have experienced bullying, and with the best of intentions, I have watched people, and I've made this mistake myself, where I've gone to the actual bully and tried to find out what's going on. Guess what? My intention was up here, but the impact is way down here, and I ended up getting youth hurt more. We do have some interventions for bullying that have been tried out at a variety of schools, and they've been quite successful. I will add those to the media that you are given so that you can check out those interventions as well. So this is our fear cascade. All of these things can happen safely or unsafely. You will see me use this in a vignette. And when I'm teaching it to youth, I like to highlight how they're on the safe side. I want you to notice the body language of our youth who are called into the principal's office for fighting when I'm highlighting for them what they did on the safe side of this fear or response cascade. And then when I can highlight what they've done on the safe side, they're more willing to hear me when I talk about what happened on the unsafe side. And then we can work together to get back to the safe side. The safety script was one of the first strategies that I used in my very first classroom. back in 1983. I had a sign above my desk that said, "This is our safe place." And I discovered that as I corrected or redirected youth, I actually referred to that sign. And I would say things like, "Hey, Bridget, this is our safe place. No one's going to knock all your stuff off the desk. So it's really important that you not knock Carolyn's stuff off the desk because we want this to be our safe place. How can we help Carolyn get her stuff back on the desk?" And it worked very well. I did not know why it was working well, but even after I left teaching and I became a therapist, I would use the safety script. I taught it to teachers. I taught it to parents. I taught it to caregivers. I used it with my staff. About 15 years after I had been using it, I was in a training with Dr. Amy Banks from Harvard Medical School and Dr. Maureen Walker from Harvard Medical School, and they volunteered to take this and study it and see what's going on. And Dr. Banks came back 6 months later and said, "So here's what's happening. When you say, we want this to be a safe place, you get the attention of the fear center. And all information must enter the fear center, and it decides, am I going to let it go to the thinking brain or not? So you calm the fear center and let your next sentence go to the thinking brain." She goes, "Then you tell the youth how you are going to protect them from the very behavior they are doing." That's very helpful because people's problem behaviors are their survival skills in environments that are far less safe than your classroom. So they are bringing those into your classroom. So when we can highlight that our classroom is a safe place and we're not going to let anyone do this thing to them, it gets their attention and it gets to their thinking brain. Then we set the limit. So it's important that you not do this to anyone here. And then we end it with, because this is our safe place, which gives them a hit of dopamine, which can help that new neural connection grow faster, work faster, and live longer. What I love about this safety script is that I can use it to correct, to redirect. I can also use it as an invitation. So I like to share these at the beginning of the school year and have everyone in the classroom, myself included, decide what helps us feel safe in our classroom. We want this to be a safe place. So it's important that no one blank. What is it that you want no one to do? So I'm not going to do that thing because this is our safe place. And then I love having the youth color it, decorate it. My teens like to make collages or get pictures off the internet and things like that that exemplify what they want. The next script we use is a script that has us focus on what we want to do instead. Because the brain hates to die, so when we try to get rid of something, the brain's going to hold on to it. Did you ever try to stop doing something like smoking? Or me, it's eating popcorn. Lord, once popcorn is in front of me, I cannot stop till it is gone. What is the thing that you have trouble stopping? Well, the brain doesn't want to let go of that neural network, but it does like to grow. So if you can engage a replacement behavior, the brain prefers to grow more than it's afraid of dying. So let's engage a replacement behavior. We want this to be our safe place, so it's important that we what? What do you want to make sure happens? So for my young lady, Bridget, who was knocking things off desks, she wanted to make sure that no one touches your stuff and that you get to keep your stuff safe. So we are going to keep each other's stuff safe on each other's desks, is what we turned that into. So Bridget said, I am going to help keep people's stuff safe on their desk because this is our safe classroom. So I love this. I have watched preschool teachers use this. So we can use this in a variety of ways. And if you need it in Spanish, Dr. Veronica Barrios from Miami University has translated this into Spanish for us as well. And someday, my Spanish lessons will be going well enough that I can read it to you, but that day is not today. As I noted earlier, when we give you explanations for behavior, our goal is not to give you an excuse. We need to be safe in our schools. Our students need to be safe in our schools. We need safe schools. So I do want to give you context that will help us, hopefully, get to safe schools a little more directly. One of these is something called Reflect, Honor, and Connect. I teach this to youth, I teach this to parents, I use it myself. This is a way of being with people. It's not something we do to people, it's a way of being with people. So, when we help people feel heard, it builds resilience. And one way we can do this is through Reflect, Honor, Connect. It also improves our communication and our ability to connect and regulate. So the first thing we're going to do is reflect back what you heard the person say. This does not mean you are agreeing with them. This is really important. The other thing this does not mean, you're not saying, I get it. No, if you say that, you better still repeat what they said. It also means you are not guessing at feelings. Do not guess at feelings. The brain hates it when we guess at feelings, and it really hates it when we get it right. Do you ever say to someone, I can see you're really angry? And they're like, I'm not angry. Okay, glad we cleared that up. Yeah, feels very vulnerable when we guess at a feeling and get it right. So we're just going to leave the feelings out of this. We're going to reflect back what we heard. You will see this in a vignette. You will actually see this in many vignettes, but you will see me teach this to one youth who's having a disagreement with another youth, so that these two can have a more productive conversation. Then we're going to honor their ability, their courage for letting you know, their perseverance to keep going, or just thank them for coming to you in the first place. And finally, we're going to connect. What can we do together to figure this out? This is the invitation to problem solving. Reflecting gives us dopamine. So whenever we hear our words back at us, the research of Daniel Siegel shows us we get dopamine, that calming chemical for the brain, the chemical connected to survival. Whenever we use those polite words our mom taught us, please, thank you, you're welcome, I'm sorry, excuse me, those words release oxytocin. This is from research collected by Lou Cozolino. Those lovely words that give us oxytocin help us work more cooperatively with one another. When we use those lovely words our mom taught us, please, thank you, you're welcome, I'm sorry, excuse me, all of those words produce oxytocin in other people. Oxytocin is the neurochemical that helps us want to work cooperatively with others, even if we don't want to. That's the magic of oxytocin. It bonds parents and children. It bonds us to those that we love. It's a very strong, powerful chemical. And when we can engage it by honoring someone's courage or using any of those polite words, then it helps us get cooperation, which is the next step, the connect step, where we offer to figure it out together or explore ways we can solve the situation. As Reflect, Honor, and Connect comes up in conversation, we will label it for you so that you can notice how it can look in context. You will also then later see me teaching it to one youth who will then engage another youth using it. Once again, this is not something we do to people, it's a way of being with people. Let's look at liftoff, landing, and cooling your jets. Regulation comes in two flavors, upregulating and downregulating. And yet there's a whole world in between being upregulated and downregulated. And we're going to use this activity to help recognize what that is, because that's what our students often need. Did you ever have those kids who need recess more than anyone else? And then they come in from recess and they get in trouble and lose their recess? Or they get so excited about recess before it's going to happen that they lose their recess. And you're like, oh my gosh, this child needs recess more than anyone else. So we're going to look at what helps some of our youth upregulate. This is a great activity to do with yourself as well. What are some things that give you energy and bring you joy? That is upregulating. What are the things that keep you going, give you energy, and bring you joy. Notice what those are. Those are your lift-off activities. Now we're going to notice when you've landed and you're calm and you're relaxing. What are some things you do? We looked at that when we got to the safe side of the freeze, faint, submit fear cascade. What are things that regulate you? Some people like to watch reality TV. It makes me a little crazy. I want to do therapy with all those people. Just give me 10 minutes with those Kardashians. I will ruin their entertainment value and we will take care of their trauma. Well, maybe not 10 minutes, maybe 10 to 20 sessions, but really. So that is not my calming. My calming is maybe jogging on a trampoline and watching a comedy or something. But notice, what is your calming? What are the things that help you calm and regulate? Those are your landing activities. So as I mentioned, there's a whole world between upregulating and downregulating. And that's the world we're going to look at as we cool our jets. Because when we're under stress, when we're hungry, when we're pregnant, when we're tired, if we have a brain that's on the autistic spectrum, or we've experienced trauma, we will not downregulate without assistance. So we all need to learn how to do this. Many of you do this already every single day on your way home from school. Notice what you do on your way home from school that helps you shift out of school mode to home mode. That's how you are cooling your jets. Those are your parachutes helping you cool your jets. You will see this used with some of our youth. When I train on it, I show you the extremes, upregulating, downregulating, then we look at the middle. Oftentimes when you're working with youth, it works better if you start with upregulating, look at what helps bring them down, and then look at the classroom as where they need to be down-regulated. So you will see it presented that way when you see this presented with one of our youth. We hope these strategies are helpful to you. As Jean Baker Miller has taught us, that if we can embrace the power of relationship, safe connection, safe flock, it will not only change psychology and education, it will change our entire society. And later today, when you hear these young women talk about what kept them going when they thought they couldn't take one more step, you will hear the power that educators have in people's lives. Thank you for doing this unbelievably difficult and important work. I hope some of these strategies can make your work just a little bit easier. Hello, Miss Celebrity.
Hi, Miss Mary.
How can I help today?
I am furious. I've had it up to here with Miss Sapphire. She has been doing everything. She's been doing papers, standing up, talking out loud, talking when she's not being called on. She even pushed a student's desk while they were doing their work.
Oh gosh. So she's got a lot of excess energy that's getting in the way and it's becoming unsafe.
Absolutely.
Is there a certain time of day when it's worse, possibly?
Always after recess. As soon as recess is over, it amplifies.
Game on. As soon as recess is over, it's game on. Okay. So what I'm hearing is that when Sapphire upregulates, which you do at recess, we would like her to burn off her energy, but she doesn't know how to downregulate, so that energy follows her right into the classroom.
Yes.
And can be quite disruptive.
Yes.
Yes. And my guess is sending her home and punishing her doesn't work.
I think I'm going to call her mom.
So before we do that, I would like to see if we could call in Miss Potter, because she has some new tools to help our kids who have lots of energy learn how to go from upregulated, which you are on the playground burning off your energy, to downregulated so that they can sit in a classroom.
Okay.
You'd be willing to give it a shot?
Yes, I would.
All right,
Just
all
so that
right.
she can still have a place to learn and still be safe
Yes.
in the classroom.
One of my favorite things about you is that you always want to find a way to keep the kids in the classroom so they can keep learning. And I thank you for that, because that takes extra effort, creativity, and you put that forward every single day. So thank you, and thanks for being willing to try this new intervention. Would it be okay with you if I called in
Yes,
Ms.
certainly.
Potter right now?
Yes,
And
absolutely.
just get this taken care of. Ms. Potter, can you come and join Miss Celebrity and me in the office?
Hi.
Good afternoon. It's good to see you both.
It's nice to see you as well.
Yes, okay. How can I serve?
So, I was just talking to Miss Mary about Miss Sapphire, who has been extremely disruptive after coming in from recess.
Okay.
She's very talkative, and she has pushed a student's desk while doing work.
Okay.
Yes, I'm trying not to call her mom, so I'm hoping that we can come to a resolution for Sapphire's safety as well as others around her.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Sapphire, she's being disruptive and pushing and talking, and it sounds to me like she's just having a bit of trouble really just going from outside mode into inside mode, right? Yeah, and so I love that you were able to connect with Mary, who's connected with me, so that we can reach a resolution. So thank you for doing that. I appreciate you.
Thank you for talking.
Yeah, absolutely. So
The other day you were talking with me about liftoff, landing, and cooling your jets.
absolutely.
So I'm wondering if that might help Sapphire go from upregulated to a more downregulated state after recess.
Absolutely. I think that this would be an excellent strategy that we can introduce directly to Sapphire, which will empower her. And I'm certain that you'll see some changes in the class as well.
So what she's going to do with Sapphire is help Sapphire identify the things that give her energy, recess being one of those, whoop, 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 running everywhere.
Yes.
And then the things that help her come down from recess so that she can focus in the classroom. And my guess is if you do with her what I got to watch you do with another student the other day, she also helps Sapphire come up with some of those ideas if Sapphire doesn't know exactly what it is that calms her. Because sometimes when you're a kid, you don't know, you're just going through life.
Yeah.
So we want to teach her to notice when she's got energy, she's upregulated, and how she can calm that down and be downregulated in other environments like a classroom.
Yes.
And coming up with some of those solutions together is again going to empower her, and we're powering together where I'm not actually powering over her. She's not going to feel like she's in trouble, but rather we're looking at possibilities that would exist for her that are healthier and, as you said, safer.
Safer.
Right.
That's right. All right. Do you mind going and getting Sapphire for us, or would you like me to do that?
Am I in trouble?
I can see why you might think you're in trouble because you got called to the principal's office, which usually means someone's in trouble. Thanks for reminding me that that's usually what that means. We're actually here today to help you come up with some solutions so you can stay safe and other people in the classroom can stay safe, because we really want this to be a safe school. And I noticed that sometimes you get a lot of energy at recess. I know, isn't recess great? I know.
It is.
It is. And then it's hard to calm down afterwards. And so we want this to be a safe school. So when we get back in the classroom, we're not going to let anyone shove your desk around and distract you while you're trying to work. So I thought that if you could work with Miss Potter here, she could help you find some ways to burn off that energy without moving people's desks around or disrupting their work, so that we can have this safe school for all of us.
Okay.
All right.
Hi, Sapphire. It's so good to see you.
You too.
Yeah, you know what? You and I have something in common.
Really? What's
Yes.
that?
I love recess too.
It's the best.
It is the best. What do you love about recess?
I like to run around and swing.
I love running around and swinging as well, and I miss it. Maybe sometime when the weather breaks, I'll join you. What do you think about that?
That would be nice.
Okay. And when you go back to class, do you sometimes still think about recess?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So tell me what happened. So you're playing at recess and the bell rings, and what's Sapphire doing?
I can't, it's hard for me to, sit down and get back to work because I don't like doing work. It's
Yeah.
boring. Too hard.
I understand. Is all the work hard for you?
Well, some of it's easy.
Yeah.
And during the morning, I'm tired, but then I eat breakfast and I feel better because I have food. And then we do some work, and that's when I like work because the work in the morning is very easy and I'm very calm. But then after lunch, we go to recess. And then after recess, I'm hungry and I still have all the energy in me. And it's hard to work after, all of that. And then you're hungry again. And then it's just, you're hungry. And you can't work when you're hungry.
Absolutely. And I think sometimes when we get hungry, we can get a little bit frustrated and maybe
Definitely.
short fused. And it can cause us to maybe snap at other people.
Yeah, I'm not very nice when I'm
Yeah. We used to
Hungry.
call that hangry. It's when you're hungry and angry at the same time.
I like that word.
Yeah. Sapphire, I have a tool or strategy that I would love to gift you. And it's a tool and a strategy that you can use forever. And what it's going to do is it's going to help you go from having a lot of energy and then getting into the mode of going into the classroom, not where you have to learn or have to do work, where you get to learn and you get to do the work. The reason why I say instead of have to get to is because when we think about that we get to do something, there's an opportunity there. It's a way to also shift our perspective. And this tool is going to ensure that you are kept safe, others are kept safe, and it's also going to help you to get through your day. And maybe you can even use the tool at home too. Yeah. It's called liftoff and landing. So let's think about a plane. When a plane lifts off, it's revving up, it's getting ready to go, and it's going up in the air and it's just taking off. And so when I think about that, I think that that's when Sapphire is running and she's jumping and she's playing and she's swinging. But when the bell rings, that's when it's time for a plane to what?
Land.
Yeah, so it's liftoff and then it's landing. And when the plane is landed, it's on the ground, so it's grounded. And when it's grounded, that means it's time to no longer fly. It's not flying anymore. So when we're lifting off, we're thinking about things that make us happy, right? And we're thinking about ways that we have all of this energy, things that give us this energy. So tell me what some of those are.
Well, snacks give me energy
Snacks
because
give you
they're
energy.
because they're nice.
Snacks are nice. What's your favorite snack?
I like oatmeal cream pies.
Say no more. I love those pies too. And you also said that you love to run around and you love swinging.
Yes.
Right. So when we are getting ready to land, what are some of the things that you think that could help you to land?
Well, I like to color.
You like to color?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So when we're on the playground, we might not have color crayons. So let me ask you this. Do you have a watch or a phone?
I have a watch.
You have a watch. Do you like to use your watch?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what would it look like if on your watch you were to set a timer? And the timer, you would set it 5 minutes before the bell rang. You might even decide to set it 15 minutes before the bell rings. And then another timer for 5 minutes before the bell rings. And if you need someone to help you remember that, we could even think about some friends that could help you remember to do that. But you set a timer. When that timer goes off, that tells you that now it's time to start landing. And when you land, you know that it's now time to stop playing. And let's just say that you don't want to use the timer. If there is a way that when the bell rings that you can start to slowly walk to the line, maybe talk to your friends, like this is the time when we're stopping the playing so that when we get to the class, we are now in work mode. And what we can do is I can check in with your teacher and see if there's an opportunity for you to be able to get a snack. Might not be the oatmeal cream pie snack, but a snack so that your belly is full and you have energy and you're in work mode. Does that sound like that would be helpful for you?
Yeah.
Yeah? I also heard you mention that you love to color. I love to color too. I don't think that's ever going to go away. What would it look like if you were to ask your teacher for color crayons and maybe color pencils and paper to help you color as you're learning? Do you think that that would help you too?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? Okay, wonderful. And just out of curiosity, when you're at home, okay, what do you like to do that helps you just settle? And I'm going to use this word, regulate. Regulate means to calm. What helps you regulate and or calm yourself?
Well, when I get very excited and overwhelmed, my mom sends me to my room to calm down. And so when I'm in my room, I grab a stuffed animal and I squeeze it very tightly. And then I let go. I relax for a little bit and I squeeze it again. And I typically do that a lot. And then when I feel calm enough, I'll come back down.
Yeah. And how do you know when you're calm enough? What does that feeling feel like for you?
I'm still.
You're still. What's your
Because,
stuffed animal's name? Sorry to interrupt you.
my stuffed animal's name, she's a bat, and her name, well, she's a fruit bat, so I named her, what's that fruit name? Dragon fruit, that's the name of it.
I love that name so very much. So you squeeze on your bat
Mm-hmm.
and you squeeze until you're calm. And you know that you're calm when you can be still.
Mhm.
That signals that you're calm. So what I would love to show you is a technique that might help you to also calm when you're in the class or calm when you're anywhere. And that is by just take your hands out and just wrap them around yourself. Now just kind of give yourself some gentle squeezes, starting maybe at the top and moving along down the side of your arms, yeah? And those squeezes, does that help you to feel more calm? Yeah? So these are also ways, Sapphire, that you can also ground yourself, that you can also land when it's time to land and reach a state of calm and stillness. Yeah. And so no, you're not in trouble today. Today is an opportunity for you, which is an amazing opportunity to learn how to lift off and to land and cool those jets so that we can focus on the work. And then when it's time to play, we get back to playing. So how about when the weather breaks? Can I join you and your friends on the playground? I can't wait.
So, I have an idea about this hunger. How do you feel about apples?
I like apples.
You like them okay?
I like oranges better though.
Ooh, oranges are,
Oranges are really good and they're full of sugar. So I'm trying to find something that will help your belly stay full longer. So sometimes apples and peanut butter do that. Have you ever had apples and peanut butter?
Mm-hmm.
Do you
Now,
like it?
If
Do you
you
like
have
peanut
an
butter?
allergy, what would that, do you have an allergy to peanut butter?
No.
Well, thank
Okay.
you for checking, Miss Potter.
Well, no, I only need to check because I love peanut butter, but I definitely have an allergy.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we could also use cheese. Do you like cheese? Okay. Cheese also would work really well. So I'm doing this special project with your teacher. And I was wondering if after recess, she could give you some things that I need for the project and you could bring them to me. And then you and I could have a little snack with some, I'm going to have apples and peanut butter because I can't have cheese, but you can have some apples and cheese or peanut butter, your choice. We'll just have a little snack and kind of ground ourselves because like you, when my lunch wears off, I'm kind of mean. It's not really good to be a mean principal.
Yeah, we learned a new word earlier. It's when you're hungry and angry.
Hangry. Yes. So you can help your teacher with this project and help me with this project by helping bring the stuff back and forth. And then you and I could take a little hangry break and regulate ourselves with some food. All right? Let's give it a try.
Okay.
Yes. And I love all of your ideas too. So I think when we put it all together, we may have some very different afternoons.
I I'm thinking so. What do you think, Sapphire?
I think it's going to be fun.
When should we start?
What if we start tomorrow?
Tomorrow's a
sounds
great day.
Excellent.
And whenever we're learning something new, it's not like being in a race where everything goes straight ahead. It's kind of like being at the ocean. The water comes in and it comes out. So sometimes it's working great and sometimes it's not working so great. But eventually more water comes in than goes out, and that's when we get our high tide. So hang in there when some days it feels like it works better than others. All right. And if you ever need help, she can reach out to you again, right, Miss Potter?
Please do. I'll be here.
Okay.
All right. Thanks. Thanks for coming in. Thank you, Miss Potter.
Thank you. It's good to see you, Sapphire. I'll see you soon on the playground.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for allowing Miss Potter to take your class for a moment so that you and Sapphire can learn what you learned together.
Oh, Miss Potter was very helpful. She
Good, great.
taught me this thing called liftoff and landing. And when I'm at recess, I'm a plane taking off, and so I'm very excited and full of energy. And so we talked about things that give me energy, like running around and swinging and all that. And then when it's time to come back in the classroom, I need to start to land. And so she said that if I wanted to set a timer and to calm down or to color, that would be a good idea. And I can also do this, which is just something to calm me down.
That's
And it
wonderful.
works. Mm-hmm. So that's what we learned. And also, I'm going to work with her and you to do a project. And I'm going to bring all the stuff, and then me and her are going to have a little snack in our office after recess.
She gets a little low blood sugar after lunch, so when she brings some books from your office that I need and returns some books to you that I borrowed the day before, she and I are going to have a little snack, especially a slow burning snack like apples and cheese and peanut butter, so that we can help level things off, because it's not fun sitting in a classroom when you're hangry.
No, it is not. It's not at all.
It's not fun having hangry students in your
Can't
classroom
concentrate.
or hangry teachers, or hangry principals. Yes.
No hangriness. I am so thankful of you, Miss Mary, and you, Sapphire, as well, for connecting with Miss Potter and teaching you different techniques and skills to calm and release the energy that you have inside of you. Because I just want you to be safe and others to be safe, and you to just have a nice learning environment.
Yes. Thank you for allowing us to do this and supporting this. Thank you for having the courage to try something new. And just as I reminded Sapphire, when we're learning something new, it's never a race. It's never straightforward. It comes and goes, just like the ocean. But eventually we do get a high tide.
Yes,
So
we do.
we're going to have lots of patience. It may take some tweaking along the way, but we're going to get there.
Yes, we will.
Go team. Thank you for coming in. Thank you so much. Now we're going to look at one of the most challenging things. Certainly it's challenging for me. I think it might be a bit challenging for all of us. It is called intention versus impact. Have you ever had the experience with the best of intention? You're trying to help someone feel better or accomplish something, and your impact is very different than the intention that you had when you did this action or thought or activity. We're going to explore today, how do we fix the rupture and put in a repair for intention and impact not matching up? I remember once being at the grocery store, and I needed to get out that little card so you can get all your discounts or something, and I couldn't find it. And my hands were shaking, and I dropped the card, and I get very embarrassed when my tremor gets in the way of me doing everyday, daily living skills. And I said, it would really help if the person who was in charge of the card knew what they were doing. I meant me. The person that was going to scan the card thought I meant her. And you could see immediately, and the look on her face, she goes, "I'm so sorry, ma'am." And I was like, oh my, I was criticizing me, not you. I was making fun of me because I can't even get the card out of my wallet without dropping it. Truly, it was not meant for you at all. So my intention was to break the ice by letting off my frustration, making fun of myself. But someone who's working in the public eye all day probably has people criticizing her all day long. And I never thought of what that might sound like to her. And it sounded to her like I was criticizing her. So one of the first things I've learned, when intention doesn't match impact, your intention no longer matters. What matters is that another human being is hurt. So we need to lead with, "Oh my, I'm so sorry you were hurt by this." And then if you want to explain your intention, and then once again, explain what you'll do differently next time. Because as my mom always taught me, I'm sorry is only half of the apology. The other half is what you're going to different next time. That's the part that matters. What you are going to do differently next time. So let's look at some things that may help us have a better chance of matching up intention versus impact. And we'll look at my grocery store experience and see if this would have helped me. So, notice, what do I mean? Intention is, what do I mean? Pause, where's my thinking brain? Well, my thinking brain was way offline because I was completely humiliated that I couldn't do something as simple as pull a card out of the wallet without my hand shaking so badly that I dropped the card. Breathe out. When you breathe out, it calms your fear center, so your thinking brain has a better chance of coming back online. I wish I had done that because I may have noticed that her perspective may be that I wasn't talking to myself. How many people talk to themselves in the grocery line checking out? I don't know, maybe not so many. Then, impact, notice how the message was received. We can do a very simple reflect, honor, and connect there, as I described earlier. Reflect that someone was hurt. Acknowledge that. Honor that you caused that hurt, and if you want to say unintentionally, when you were trying to accomplish something else. And then connect with committing to do better. One thing I've learned from a friend of mine, Veronica, is that when I've done something and I'm not exactly sure how I've hurt the person, it's not that person's job to tell me what I did wrong. It's my job to find out. So for example, in the grocery store example, I didn't say, "Please explain to me how that hurt your feelings." It's not her job to tell me. It's my job to notice. That's the reflect. It's my job to apologize. That's the honoring. And it's my job to say, I will do this very differently next time, and how I'll do it differently. So my lesson learned is, don't talk to yourself in the grocery store line, especially if what you're going to say is not something positive. Hi, Sapphire.
Hi.
Nice to see you again.
Mhm.
Sounds like there was some disturbance or disagreement in the lunchroom between you and Yane. Could you fill me in on your perspective?
Well, I went into the science room to see what she was doing for the science fair.
Yes.
Because I heard her project was really good, and some of the other kids that worked in that room with her said that hers was really good. So I looked at it, and then another kid came in and startled me, and then I accidentally broke it. I tried to fix it. And it
Didn't go so well.
No.
No. So your intention was to look at it. Somehow your hands were involved when you were looking at it, and so when you got startled, it got broken.
Well,
So
it was on like a slidey cart. That way it could like slide into the presentation show, and like had my hand on the cart.
okay.
And then the other kid startled because I was reading the piece of paper, because it has the piece of paper and it's like so and so's, this is what they did, and then like a little brief. So I was reading that, and then another kid startled me and jumped up. Yeah.
So one of my goals today is to help you and Yane repair this rupture. I also am going to speak with her and get her perspective. And the reason I'm doing that isn't because one is right and one is wrong, but because the more perspectives we get, the more clearly we can see. So oftentimes when people have different perspectives, they think that's a problem. It's actually not a problem. It's like having different camera angles. One's not right and one's not wrong. It just lets you see different things. So this has been your experience. I'm going to hear what her experience is, and then we're going to come together and look at what we can do about the situation. Sound good? Mm-hmm. All right. I'm going to have you leave, and we can invite in Miss Yane. Yane, thanks for coming in. I know you're having some big feelings right now.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I'm upset.
I'd love to know your perspective.
Yeah, so I'm finishing up my wonderful science project. I'm so excited about it, and I leave it in the art room because that's where we're supposed to leave all of our projects, so it's easy transferable to the fair.
Mm-hmm.
I come back in and I see all my planets on the floor, on the ground, and I see Sapphire standing there. And the art teacher always lets the younger students come in and look at our work, and they don't care. They just completely do anything, put their fingers on it, put their nasty little finger marks on it. And I've worked all day, and the only thing I get is, sorry, no one's going to help me finish my project, fix my project. And it's so frustrating because there should be better security around my project.
So you put all this work into this project, and you would like it protected.
Yes.
And when you come in and see that it hasn't been protected, you have some big feelings.
Yes.
Yes, thank you for sharing those with me. And you did a wonderful job sharing them very calmly, because I can tell these are big, big feelings that you're having.
Yes.
I'm wondering if we can look at how we can repair this rupture between you and Sapphire, and get some ideas about how we can keep things safer
Right.
as well. So here's something that kind of helps me organize my thoughts, if you don't mind. It's called this stress response cascade.
Okay.
So when our brain gets stressed, it wants certain things to happen. One, it wants to go towards safe people. So I appreciate you coming to my office instead of taking things into your own hands with Sapphire.
Yes.
That took a lot of self-control. Yes. So I appreciate that. So you've already done what we would call a safe flock.
Okay.
All right? Then sometimes, if we can't find safe people, we want to run away.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm wondering, when you walked in and you saw Sapphire there, did she stay or did she run away?
No, she completely left. After she said she saw it, she just ran out of the room.
Okay, so the stress got the best of her and she ran off.
Yes.
Okay, I get it. And then what happened in the lunchroom? with
So
two
in
of
the
you?
lunchroom, when I confronted her, she was trying to act all clueless and said it was an accident. But I don't think it was an accident. I think she did it on purpose. You know, they're letting them in there and they're doing what they want. They're just knocking stuff down. Just like I said, there's no protection. So I was angry, and she didn't really seem like she cared, or at least at the moment I didn't see that she cared. So, you know.
So in the lunchroom, you confront her.
Yeah.
And you're having big feelings. Now she's having big feelings. So her perspective is that was an accident.
Yes.
And your perspective is that it feels like it was on purpose.
Yes.
And the whole problem is made worse by the fact that it feels like these projects, if you have to leave them in the art room, you want them protected.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So you're over here on an unsafe fight when you're arguing with her in the lunchroom. But then when you come to my office and you say, here's what I think needs to happen. I think we need better protection.
Yes.
And you're saying it in a respectful, although frustrated manner, that's a safe fight. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So I'm hoping that we can come together and get some rupture, some repair, and some solutions so we can all get to a safe flock.
Okay.
Okay? There's a couple other things on this fear cascade. I'm not sure if it applies to this situation, but just so I can teach you the whole thing.
Okay.
So these three are solution focused: flock, flee, fight. They're for survival. I want to solve this problem. I want to survive.
Okay.
Okay? That's what we're working on. When someone thinks there's nothing I can do, when you think there's nothing I can do, what do you do?
Go crazy.
Yes, you kind of give up and
Yeah.
go crazy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Everything shuts down, and I'm just whatever feeling I'm feeling at that moment is intensified times 10, which is anger most of the time.
Yes. So, what you're not doing is shutting down. Even though she's seeing it one way, you're seeing it another. You're not going into this freeze, submit, response.
Right.
You actually came and said, I need some help with this. You also tried to confront her, and that didn't go as well as you would have liked.
No.
No. So, as I said before, what I'd really like to do is see if I can get all of us to this safe flock so we can repair the rupture between you and Sapphire, because I do know that Sapphire, as do many kids in her grade, look up to you. So I appreciate you coming and being a model again by showing them, yes, I can get angry. Yes, I can try to take care of it myself. And when that doesn't work, it's okay to find a safe adult.
Yes.
Yes, not all environments have safe adults, but when one does, I appreciate you demonstrating that, yes, you can come find a safe adult. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I'm hoping to teach you some of these skills so as you become an adult, you can use them with others and you can use them before you're an adult. So I know when I was growing up, there weren't a lot of safe adults in my life, but I could often find older youth that were safe, or sometimes grandparents or somebody else's grandparents or a neighbor that was safe. So my guess is you're also pretty good at finding safe people who can help you, and I would like to help you become a safe
Yeah.
a safe person for other people. Okay?
All right.
All right. Let's give this a shot.
Okay.
So I'm going to bring in Sapphire, and we're going to talk about what happened. So I'm going to teach you another skill.
Okay.
Okay? This one's called reflect, honor, and connect. It helps people feel heard. It doesn't mean you're agreeing with them. But when people feel heard, they calm down. So this time I'm going to have you switch roles, and you're going to be Sapphire, and I'm going to be you, and I'm going to use a reflect, honor, connect.
Okay.
Sound good?
Yeah.
Let's practice. Okay. So, Sapphire, what's the deal? I worked so hard on that project.
I was just looking at it. And it bumped and it fell. I didn't do it on purpose. I promise.
So, you're telling me you were looking at it with your hands, obviously. Yes.
Yeah.
And then something happened and it fell.
Yeah, well, another student came in and they scared me. I was looking at it and I touched it a little bit, but once the student came in and I was scared and I bumped it and it fell. It wasn't intentional.
So what you're telling me is you're looking at it with your hands, which a part of you knows you're not supposed to be doing. And then another student comes in and that startles you because you're doing something you're not supposed to be doing. And then it falls and breaks. I appreciate you telling me the honest truth that you were looking at it with your hands and not just your eyes. I appreciate that a lot. And I'm wondering if we can go see Ms. Potter or Ms. Vicario or someone that's available to help us figure this out, because I'm pretty upset right now. And I don't want to do something that either one of us is going to regret.
Yes, I would appreciate that. I only was looking at it because I admired it, and I admire your work, and I didn't mean to break it. Let's go.
Let's go, because it'll help me to hear that with a safe adult around that you didn't do it on purpose. I do appreciate you being honest, though, and saying that you were touching it when you shouldn't be. I appreciate that a lot, and I think we can figure this out together.
Good. Thanks, Yane.
Did you see how different that felt
Yes.
for her?
Yes, it
Yes.
didn't put her on the spot and didn't make her feel like a target. It was, you thanked me and then you let me know that we're going to talk to someone else.
Yes. And you still weren't agreeing with her. So you can still have your reservations as to whether or not it was done on purpose or not. But you can wait till we have a safe adult present if we want to tease that piece out.
Right.
Yes, you're kind of being the safe adult for her and showing her there is a way to disagree without hurting each other emotionally or socially or physically or morally. There's a way to do this.
Okay.
So, do you mind practicing now? And you get to be you,
Okay.
and I get to be Sapphire before the real Sapphire comes in.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Dang it, Sapphire, you broke my stuff.
I know, but I didn't mean to. It was just so cool. I just was like, oh my gosh, how are those planets spinning and stuff? And so I was spinning the planets, and then someone came in and I jumped, and then all the planets landed on the floor, and then you were right behind the person that scared me.
Wow, so you're telling me that you were not only just looking at it, you were touching the planets, and then someone came in, started you, and bumped it on the floor.
Yeah,
And that's what happened?
yes. I didn't mean to break it, really. I just wanted to see, how did you get those planets to spin on that wire? That was really cool. I guess it's not so cool anymore because I broke it, but it was really cool.
Yes, I worked really hard on that, but I appreciate you telling me the truth, and thank you for letting me know that it wasn't done intentionally. At least I hope. I'll believe you for now, but I think we should escalate this to Miss Porter's office because I'm frustrated about my project and the science fair is tomorrow. So we have to find something to do about this. And you have to be shown that it's not okay to touch and look with your hands. Maybe one day we can build a project together. How about that?
Okay. Miss Potter's not here today.
Miss Potter's not here. Okay, maybe we can go see Miss Mary then. She's great at these kind of things.
Okay.
All right, let's go.
Thanks for joining us, and thank you too for coming to the conclusion to come see me. I appreciate that. I'm wondering if you don't mind walking through again for both of us what happened in your experience.
Well, my grade did an art project, and so I was going to go get my art project to bring it to the other room because it was paint, so we kept it in there. And then once it dried, we bring it to the other room. So I was getting my project, and I was reading all of the other projects, the little papers on them. And then so I went around and I read all of the papers. But when I got to the last paper, then somebody was like, hey. And so then I bumped it on accident while turning around, and then it fell on the floor. And then you came in, and then you looked very mad. And so I said sorry, and I ran away because she looked mad.
Okay.
I was pretty upset about that.
What did it look like from your experience?
From my experience, I walked in and I seen my project on the floor and I seen Sapphire there, and when I confronted her about it, You know, she just said sorry and ran out. So I kind of thought that was a lie, that it was an accident, because why didn't you stay and kind of explain the whole thing to me? But now, you know, seeing that she seen that I was angry, I could kind of see why she probably ran away, because I was very angry.
And if I remember correctly, you really like Nyane's work.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
It's very pretty.
it is, isn't it? And it's really strong science. She's really good at the science, and she makes it look touchable. So I'm wondering if sometimes we get tempted to touch it because it looks so alive. Yeah. Okay. I would like to see if we can repair this rupture and learn a few things along the way. So one of the things I want to explore with the two of you is something that's called the fear cascade, because we all have the same one that lives inside of us. And you all gave me some wonderful examples of what happens when we're afraid. And sometimes our intention is one thing, but when our fear cascade kicks in, the impact we have is very different. So this is a picture of the fear cascade right here. And it looks like you showed up curious about the projects. And so you're checking out everyone's project. We call that flocking. You're going toward other people or other people's work. That's okay. You can do it safely or unsafely. So while you're looking at it, it's safe. When it looks really good and you want to touch it, that's a little bit of unsafe. Because, unbeknownst to you, someone could come in and startle you, right? And when we get startled, we get a whole bunch of energy all at once that we're not expecting. And it makes us jump. And if we're too close to something or touching something, it can break. That is sometimes called a flee or fight response, because it gives you energy. That's those energy responses, right? And then you come in. And how are you feeling?
Man,
Yes, you're angry. However, what did you do?
I went to go seek a safe adult to help us with this
Yes.
situation.
So she asked you what was going on, right? So it's a safe flock, and you answered her from your experience, another safe flock. So I just want to highlight how you two ladies, even though you were agitated, what you did with your agitation was safe. You spoke to each other, got a little heated, sometimes it does, and then you decided to call in a third party. Yes, that's another safe flock. So you're doing a lot of safe things in a very frustrating situation. So, there's two more things on here that I don't think apply to this situation, but I want to check them out. One is these first three: flock, which is connection; fleeing and fighting, which is action, because I believe you ran from the room very quickly. Yeah, that's what we're designed to do. So, and then you confronted her, so you came back. However, you decided this isn't going the way I'd like it to go, both of you, and you agreed to come get a safe adult, and you agreed to come talk with the safe adult as well. So I just want to really highlight this situation is frustrating for both of you, and you're all doing a lot of safe ways of handling it. So you're doing much better than many adults I work with. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
What you seem to be avoiding is what happens when our brain gives up hope. When you think a situation is unfair and it can't be fixed, what do? And there's no wrong answers here. Yeah,
Yep. Shut down.
you shut down.
Or go with the flow.
Yes, that's the freeze and submit. It's not always safe. Sometimes we have to do it to keep ourselves safe. Yes. However, you didn't do that today. You both had the courage to speak your mind, even though you disagreed, and then get a safe adult. So I really want to highlight that, because there's not always enough safe adults to go around.
Yeah.
So one of my goals is to make the kids in my school learn how to become safe people for one another, so that when you grow up, you are also safe adults.
Yes.
And you are handling this just like safe adults. So with that in mind, let's look at how we can repair this rupture. So, your intent was to see this really cool science project.
Yeah.
Yes, because you do make really cool stuff. And it sounds like it was very tempting to touch it. What did you say was one of the challenges that might help with this situation? Do you remember you told me?
Yes, I feel like there should be more protection around my project. Maybe a little rope, but don't get 2 feet in within distance, or something similar to the art
That's a
museum.
great idea. So, would that help if there was a little rope like at the art museum?
Well, yeah, but it would make the reading a little harder.
It would make the reading a little harder. Maybe we could make the print a little bigger on the reading?
Or maybe put it in a different place.
Yes.
Like on a different table.
On a different
Okay.
table.
Because I was just reading the reading. I didn't touch the project. And then I heard a voice, and so I turned around, and then I bumped it.
So to read the reading, you
have
had to get very close.
Because the reading's very tiny.
Ah, okay. So we need to make the print bigger and closer to the person, and the project a little further away from the person would be another way to solve this problem.
Yeah.
I like that idea too. Yes. Yes, I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm also wondering, that door has a lock on it. So here's why I'm asking this so cautiously, because I do think it's important that we learn from one another. So you are going in there and learning from the other projects. You often have told me you go in there and learn from people's art, because you're a science person and you're an art person, so you all can learn from one another.
Right.
Science, technology, engineering, art, and math. It all goes together. That's what gives us the steam to create things. So you're doing some of that learning from one another. I don't want the learning to stop. However, I do want the projects to be safe. So I'm wondering if you can think with me when might be a good time to lock the door, when might be a good time to have the door unlocked.
Well, all of the projects are stored in there.
Yes, the art and the science.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So if the science people have to get theirs at a different time and the art people have to get theirs at a different time, then after the science people get it, that's when the art people get it. That way the fragile stuff gets taken out before.
Okay. So you're
Because-
thinking you could have them in there at separate times?
Well, they can be stored together, and then the doors are kept locked. And then the more fragile stuff, like all of the science fair projects, are taken out before the doors get unlocked for the actual people.
Got it, because the science fair ones need to make it through the weekend to the science fair. And the art projects, we've already had our art show and they're in there waiting for people to come and get them.
Or like a special badge.
A special badge.
That way
So we know who.
only people from
Mhm.
the science fair can get theirs.
I like that. I was thinking more so maybe have an attendant who's able to see, and watch over during specific times, which I think would be free times or lunchtime. And also, I would feel if the project haven't been on display yet, it shouldn't even be, available for anyone, in my opinion, to be looking at it until after it's presented. And then maybe it can be for further presentation in the art/science room.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. So you're thinking we don't let anyone in till the projects have already gone through. Just like the art ones went there before the art show, they went to the art show, then they went back there for people to come and get them. So if we were to do that same pattern, we would keep the door locked until after the science fair. And then, here's what I don't want to lose, the ability to learn from one another.
Right.
So I like your idea of an attendant. So I'm wondering, what would it look like if your art teacher took your class through to see the art and science projects, and your science teacher took your class through to see the art and science projects?
Yeah.
So then there's an attendant, but you can also see them. I also agree we need to make the print larger and put it up higher. Yes. So we just did another thing called predict practice. So we predicted when this might be a problem again. You helped me practice some ways we can make it work better. Now we're going to have a plan B. Let's say it's not you and it's not you. But let's say 2 other kids are looking at each other's stuff and something gets broken. How would you help those youth? What would be the plan B for if it happens again, even though we've got a monitor? You know, sometimes when I bring little kids don't understand. You're not a little kid. But I'm saying, little kids, I'm pointing at you because I know you have lots of siblings, so you know. Little kids look at things with their hands because they make sense of their world by acting on it, not thinking about it. That takes age. You don't get your claws around that very well till you're like over age 9. So littler ones want to touch everything. So how could we help? What could be our backup plan to help other kids in a similar situation as the 2 of you?
I mean, if we have the measures in place, they should be able to see. You know, and it wouldn't be he say, she say, because the attendant is able to monitor,
Okay.
you know, what's being broken and what's not. And maybe we can put up some rough housing or
Mm-hmm.
just some more signage. But if the projects are back, I feel like it'd be a little bit more rare for it to happen because we have stuff
Absolutely
in
right.
place.
So the planning we've done will make it more rare. And yes, sometimes mistakes happen. So I'm
Yeah.
kind of, what's our safety net?
Maybe a gate.
A gate
Yeah.
could help. Okay. Yep. That's where you were talking about the string. So those 2 things could help.
And then just communication, just practicing
Communi-
this cascade, you know, just practicing
Yes.
being able to repair what we may have ruptured. And like I mentioned, maybe we can work on fixing it together. Like I mentioned, how we could build a project together. Maybe if it's broken, maybe they can work on it together to fix it again.
Oh, I love that solution.
Yeah.
Because you're artistic and you're scientific, and we put that together. Woo!
Mm-hmm.
That could take the whole science fair by storm and the whole art fair by storm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love that. That's a
Also-
great example of STEAM, which is what I'm going for.
Yeah. And when they're there, they can monitor their own projects. So maybe no one should see it until they're there. That way they can be responsible
idea.
for it
Great.
themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so the fault lies on them.
So I'm going to invite the 2 of you to recreate this project together,
Okay.
if you're up for it. And while you're doing that, I'm also going to invite you to think about what would it look like to have a student peace and reconciliation council. Yes, so it's a council where students with an adult monitor, because all of our groups need an adult monitor, work together to help other students solve disagreements.
Yes.
You
I
could
love
use
that.
some of these skills that you're already good at. We could use some other ones that we could teach you. I can just see the 2 of you being leaders in this school peace and reconciliation council. Call it whatever you want to call it. Just reminded me of the South African work on peace and reconciliation.
Yeah.
And I think that would be beautiful for our school to have something similar.
Yeah, I agree, because this can apply to many other situations as well.
Yes, many situations. And I want to take your strengths at staying on the safe side or getting yourself to the safe side when you notice, woo, this fight's not going the way I want it to go. This discussion starting to feel a little unsafe. We can get it to the safe side. Yes.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Would that work for you?
Mm-hmm.
And the final thought I had for a sign, because one of you mentioned a sign, is we have this thing called a safety script. I'm wondering, when I was a teacher, I had this sign in my classroom. This is our safe place. And I had it framed. And I'm wondering if for the science project, we could put up We want this to be our safe place. It's important that no one look at things with their hands, only with their eyes, because we want these projects to be safe,
Yes.
because this is our safe school.
I like that. It reminds them. It's a constant reminder when they walk in.
Because when you get excited, you can flip to that energized part of the fear cascade, and it could become unsafe very quickly because your hands want to touch everything.
Yeah.
Because that's just how we're designed. Yeah, we're not trying to irritate each other. It's just how we're designed. When we get excited, our whole body wants to get involved. So that might be a reminder.
Yeah, I like that.
All right. I can't wait to see what project you come up with. And if you need time or space setting that up, let me know and we can pull in some teachers who can help us find some time and space for you to repair this rupture and repair the project.
Sounds
And
good.
maybe get us started on a whole new way of solving problems at our school.
Yes, I like that idea. You down for it, Sapphire? Let's
Cute.
get it done.
Can you shake on it?
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, friends.
Hey.
Hi. Family.
Family. I love that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. So we had an amazing time doing these videos, did we not?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a really good time.
Awesome.
Learned a
So
lot.
yes, we did. Yes, we did. So now that we are not in character, do you feel comfortable sharing your first names with the teachers so that they can know who is speaking today, and also maybe just one reflection of how this experience was for you doing these videos? Why don't we start here?
Okay, my name is Yane, and during the time I was doing these videos, I really learned a lot when it comes to self-regulation and how I may feel or how I may react to a situation. It can transfer to the person who I'm having that situation with. So if I'm tense, they're tense, or maybe they may be afraid. So I learned a lot on how to effectively communicate, self-regulate, and just be, aware of how other people are feeling and take their emotions into account before jumping to assumptions or placing generalizations.
Okay. Thank you. Now let me ask you, did you have this skill set beforehand?
I knew of the skill set, but the biggest thing is the practicing it after. When I'm in those situations or I'm in those heated moments. I remember filming yesterday, and I went back home to my boyfriend, and we were having a miscommunication, and then he was like putting words in my mouth I didn't say. So I, took the practice. I'm strong, I'm powerful, I'm resourceful, and I took my practices and used them during those situations.
Yes.
That's beautiful.
That is. Yes. sis.
I celebrate you, sister, and thank you for your bravery and sharing that. Isn't it beautiful that when we're doing this type of work, right, it helps with the inner life work.
Yes, it is.
It really does.
Very
Thank you.
useful.
Thank you for sharing that. And also what I heard you say was sometimes we realize that the intention doesn't match the impact, right? And that came up a lot during our videos, did it not?
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
reflect, honor, and connect. It sounds like you did some of
Yeah.
some of that, and
Yeah.
it sounds
And it
like you
helped.
also grounded yourself as well,
The
right?
3-finger grounding, and it helped. It really did. And you
Yeah.
can feel it, like we talked about, in your body. You can feel yourself calming down, being more,
Absolutely. Yeah. So our hope also is the teachers will also be able to, take the skill sets and not just use them with the youth that they're serving, but also for themselves.
Yes.
So thank you for sharing that. Please.
My name is Celebrity. I was taken away by these techniques and skills because I am a mom. So I get very frustrated and easily, like, emotions and feelings are like everywhere instead of it being calm and happy. So the techniques that I learned, I never knew anything about. Especially the ones I like the most is this. I feel like I'm nurturing myself.
Yes.
It reminds me I am a mom, so it reminds me of what I need from a mom, and I can't get it from a mom, so I have to get it from myself.
Aw.
Sorry, I'm trying not to cry right now.
Oh my gosh,
but
no, I want to like embrace
Yes.
it makes me feel good.
Yeah.
Like it makes me feel good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I honestly think that this is going to help a lot of people. I don't want to stop doing it.
Yeah.
You don't have
makes
to,
me feel
sis.
good.
I mean, would it be weird for the video if we were doing this?
We were just doing this the whole time.
And you all don't see those in the studio. They're now right.
But
But
they're awesome.
but I
Station
love
jumps.
what you said. I love what you said, and just how you even named the fact that I need this. This is going to help me to become a better mom, and it's going to also help. And you said it's going to help me to become a better mom, and you also said you can't get it from a mom, so you're doing it for yourself.
Yeah, like I can hug my daughter all day long.
Yeah.
She can't really hug me back yet because her orange not wide
Arms.
But I want to feel that, like, even though like she puts her head on my chest, that does a lot for me.
Yes.
But it's also about, I forget to pat myself on the back a lot of times. I forget to hug myself. So this is just a reminder. Just hug yourself.
Yes.
Yes.
It's okay.
Yes, definitely. And a total pause here. I think you all might have an acting career in you. I'm just saying, because y'all played those roles incredibly well.
Thank
And
you.
so, yeah, shout out to Mary for bringing us all in.
Yes.
Did
yes.
you want to have anything else we can uplift? Or
No, that was it. I
Yeah.
don't want to cry.
I don't want to be emotional.
And you know, I learned, I heard this quote, and it said that tears are the libations for the soul. Tears are libations from the soul. Yeah.
I
And
like
so
that too.
libations are what we pour for our ancestors to give gratitude. So those tears are the gratitude for the soul. It's always all right to cry, friend.
Yes,
You're welcome.
it is.
Thank you for sharing. Yes.
Yes. My name is Jaleesa. This whole thing has been a great experience, actually. I was really able to take a lot from this. So I also have a son, or a kid, and he has a lot of energy all the time. And even like our basic, so our filming yesterday was kind of just talking about transitioning, like literally just from one task to another. And if it's not a preferred task, there's always a really big reaction.
Right.
And I often have to walk away or flee on the fear cascade. Sometimes I have to flee and take a moment and just get myself together. So, because he does, he matches my energy as well. So once he get up here and then I get up here and nothing, we're not, we're just fighting at that point.
Yes.
But also being able to recognize where he is on the fear cascade and finding a safer way, a more appropriate way to address him and his needs so we can get back to what's at hand. And one of the bigger things was like just reminding him that there's going to be time to come back to whatever it is that he is doing instead.
Yeah.
And instead of using words like warning, like this is your 5-minute warning, this is your 10-minute warning, using reminder instead, because he may take reminder better than warning.
Yeah,
So
'cause
just
warning could throw him offline, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So it was like just stuff like that I feel like I can actually incorporate into my parenting, and because we've been working, me and my son, we've been working on like prevention and intervention stuff since he was 3. He's 10 now, and we're just trying to move forward. And a lot of this stuff I can like actually use, and it's like this was like free therapy, like it's family therapy. So I'm parenting in here, so that was like it's been a great experience though. So
I love when the
very
work,
helpful.
Exactly. I love when the work intersects and spills over to other areas of our lives.
Yes.
And thank you. And one of the things I loved that you said was that you were able to identify where he was on the fear cascade. That's so compassionate of you and patient of you. So kudos.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
My name's Sapphire, and well, yesterday I got to focus a little more on like my own situations, like because I'm the oldest out of 7 kids, well 8 including me. So, and they're little and they get on my nerves, and you just want to like boom. You know, like that one thing that like they're just sitting in the chair and the other one just randomly like punches the other one off of the chair and then like it's like nothing happened. It's
I think reflect, honor, and connect will work
Yeah.
better than that.
That's why I like this because
We're reflecting, honor, and connecting rather than punching out, right?
that's just like what goes through my mind. You know, like do.
But it sounds like these were helpful
Yeah.
for you. Yeah.
I also like being around all of you, and that's why I joined Youth Advisory.
Yes.
Wait, hold on. I don't think that they know out there. So, Sapphire, why don't you tell our friends what we all actually have in common? Because I don't think that they know.
Well, we are all youth that have been in foster care. Well, they were in it. I'm still in it, even though I'm about to get adopted. Well, the adoption date hasn't been set, but the PC was granted, so you know.
Yes.
Congratulations.
And once I get adopted, I can get a snake. See how my plan connects all the way back to snakes?
I love that so much. So one of the things that I'd like to uplift as well, Sapphire, is how you named that I do have these siblings, and I noticed you didn't call them foster siblings. You called them siblings. You've embraced them as your family. I also noticed that you didn't say that you punched. You said the thought has gone through your mind,
Yeah.
but you didn't do it. And I'm also really, really happy for you that you're going to get adopted. You are an amazing
Yes,
person, and
you
you
are.
make a fine daughter. You make a fine daughter.
Yes.
But I also want to uplift that you said we all lived in foster care, or I live in foster care. You didn't call us former foster youth, and you didn't call yourself a foster child. Can you tell our friends out there why it's important for us to not call youth that live in foster care foster children?
Because it's putting a label on us, and once you're labeled, it's hard to get unlabeled. It's like the halo and horn effect.
Yes.
Once you're labeled as a bad kid, it's hard to actually get out of there and show that you're not.
Exactly.
And I feel like it's important not to label us as foster kids because a lot of people don't know what that is. And they're just like, oh, so you're adopted. Does that mean your family died? Because a lot of times, you know, especially like kids are like, adoption, that means you don't have a family. And that's not the truth because I always have had a family and I always will. My family is whoever I choose to be my family.
Yes. I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay, I love
Yes.
They are my family.
Yes, we
and
are. Oh my gosh, my heart's so
all
full.
of my friends out there are my family, and it's wrong to put labels on people.
Thank you for sharing that. And one of the things I'd like to share with you all and with us is that when we flip the letters of wrong around, it can also spell grown. So for those of you out there that have been using this language, as Sapphire says, it feels very wrong, and please be encouraged to know that it's an opportunity to grow. And right? And you know, children will rise to the occasion of who you make them believe they are and who you make them believe they're not. So if you're putting a label on them and your intention is just to, well, they're in foster care, so they're a foster child, it doesn't match the what? The impact. And the impact is that it then creates an othering type of feeling, and that label can be very harmful to the child that you're serving. And I wanted to ask what you all's reflections are about that, just switching the language to person first language.
Me personally, I didn't even actually really even take a thought of that and the effects that it comes with. Because at the end of the day, words are spells. What you say, hear, think seeks to become true. So when I'm hearing all these adjectives put in front of you or in front of me, it makes me think like, dang, it would be better just to be called a youth or a sister or a brother or a child. I remember being in my placement, I was called that foster kid. When I would go to school with my siblings, who were my foster siblings, they'd be like, "Oh, that's your sister?" They'd be like, "No, that's just my foster kid. That's just a foster kid." And it really spoke to what Sapphire said about how the family, how she spoke about they just assume you don't have a family. That was the main thing I dealt with in school. They're like, "Oh, your parents don't love you. Oh, your mom don't love you." No, they just couldn't support me. They just couldn't help me grow. It doesn't mean that they don't love me. So I like how she said, I always had a family and I always will have a family. So I feel like I would love to kind of get rid of, the harsh labels, because what she said, once you get labeled, it's hard to get away from that label. And a lot of people who have negative connotations want to hear foster child or adoption or any of those words. So I really love to not be able to just put that or attach that to our name, because we are more than that.
And it does start with us and having these conversations, and when we're in these spaces, gently offering other language for people to use. And so we are very thankful also, again, to have been able to do these videos, because it does allow us to introduce new concepts, tools, strategies, and ideas to help others be able to serve our youth better and serve themselves. Thank you for sharing that with you, Warren.
I would like to just add that when you pointed out taking foster youth from the actual youth, it makes sense. I've been alienated most of my childhood and teenhood, so because I was the foster youth.
Yeah.
So when you're around, say for instance, me in high school, I was in a group of kids in high school, and I went to a behavior school. That's it at first. So we all were like connected because we had behavioral issues. But when I told everybody that I was a foster child or I was in foster care, pretty much it just like I was tired and everything just slowly pushed away from me, and I was just alone. I was like, why? Then, come to find out, I've asked my teachers, asked caseworkers, and a lot of people don't know about foster care, the foster system, foster care system, or anything like that. They don't know, like how you said, like adoption or things like that. They don't know what comes behind it, and they don't know how it actually make you feel. We are already going to the fact that we have to depend on state versus actual person.
Right. And what that brings up for me is it makes me think about if we are in the office and and I'm going to use this language, foster parent is picking us up, and there are other kids that might overhear, I'm picking up my foster child, or that's my foster mom. I didn't want people to know that I was in foster care. And so it's us having these type of conversations allows people to think a bit deeper and to make certain that their intention is matching their impact. And I want to salute you both for sharing and for your bravery. And we did talk about this offline a bit. Sometimes people call us strong and resilient. And while it is well-meaning, it doesn't always feel the best, because what people don't know is how tired we are and how much it takes to be strong.
All the time.
And you're forced to be it.
Yes, that's the part. When does the strong people get a chance to not have to be strong? When can we lay down and look up to somebody else to help? Oh no, you're strong. You can do it. No, I don't care how many accomplishments.
I'm tired of fighting.
How many things? I still need help. That's the biggest thing too.
Yeah.
Just to be treated regular as like a person in a non-foster care family. You are solely with your family. You have your mom, your dad, your grandmother, whoever. You have all of that.
Yeah.
We want to be able to be treated like that. We want to still get the same treatment versus me being related to you by blood or just me being presented to you through a passion that you have.
Exactly.
So it's like, because most foster parents do have passion to give back, and some foster parents are alumni foster care youth.
Sure. Thank you. And I just wanted to say that when we're saying we're talking on behalf of all youth that live in foster care. Okay, so Thank you so very much for naming that as well. And friend, I'd love to hear from you.
Yes. So I really like the idea of taking out the foster youth part as well and taking a more, what do we call it, person first approach. Because kind of like what they said, it's just everybody don't understand what that means and what it looked like, and they're able to paint their own narrative of it for you. And so for me, I actually was always in foster homes with, I was always with Caucasian families. And we was actually in a town where we were literally like the only African-American kids in there. So not only were we like the only African-American kids, but now we're the only foster kids. And so we already stood out like sore thumbs. And now it's like, oh, let's add foster kids to that. So we got so many stigmas just thrown at us, and that's the way you start to be. That's what you start to think, why am I trying so hard to become something and be something different and show everybody that I'm better than this or I'm better than that, when everybody's mind is made up. It's just like, why even try? Why bother? And that those actions that you go through, and you like as youth trying to process through all of that and just kind of live and keep going, all the mistakes you've made, all that growing that you had to do in that home, it starts to follow you around from home to home, from placement to placement.
Yes.
And it creates a whole nother effect. So then it's like, well, now you're this, and that. Well, now that's the reason why you can't get placed with a decent family. That's why you can't get into a certain group home. So it starts to affect your placement, and then that really, like, you internalize all of that.
And that file is shared at school often.
Yes, it is. Your teachers have access to that. The principals have access to that.
Office.
Yeah, now you're a runaway. Now you're this, you're that, and you're
Goes
not
back
just.
to what she say? Labels.
Yes, it's just it starts with that one, and then everyone else creates their own narrative behind it, and then it snowballs. So I think removing that and just being youth that's experienced foster care, youth that are in foster care, because we are not foster care. We're people that experienced it. So
Thank you for that.
I would like to add to her.
Yes.
When she said it snowballed, and once you get labeled more than once and it just keeps getting put on, it's kind of like it just hits you. And then it's like Blair's of the Ocean. The deeper you go, the harder it is to come back up. And the deeper you go, the more you just succumb. I know a lot of kids at my schools, they would just assume that I don't have a family, and like nobody cared to get to know me, and they would just, be like, oh yeah, oh no, that's the foster girl. No, she's adopted. You don't have a family. Your mother didn't want you. And it didn't really affect me as much as it used to, because once you get used to something, it's just there, and it's easier to smile and act like everything's okay and not let people know that you're struggling than to open up. Because once you open up, all of that water, the water that's built up inside of you, pours out like a flood.
There's
And
those
sometimes
tears, don't they? Sometimes
just
it's
want-
tears, sometimes it's behaviors when it pours out, right?
And sometimes you have to open up the floodgates.
And sometimes you're forced to, aren't you?
yeah.
Yeah.
Because you just can't.
You can't
And
keep it in.
it's like if you, I went scuba diving, and they told us when you're down there and you come back up, you don't want to come up too fast. Because if you come up too fast and you hold your breath, then your lungs explode. And it's kind of like that. You're not ready to come up. And then you're not ready, and you're just pushed. And then everything just comes apart. And it just explodes. And you just explode.
Yeah.
And it's to the point where you can't be like, I'm okay anymore. And you have to let people see that you're not okay. And there are some people where you're like, it's okay to be okay around them. And then there's others where you just smile and wave and it's like, I'm fine.
Everything's fine.
Totally fine, like Mirabelle, or isn't that the girl off the Canterville?
Yeah,
I'm fine.
I'm totally fine.
I'm not fine. I'm not fine.
Girl, yes.
If I may, I I would like to share a couple things. One, you are an amazing speaker.
Yes.
Thank you.
I can imagine that if you ever considered, I don't know if you do write poetry,
I do, actually.
what you just said sounded to me like a beautiful spoken word poem. And I also wanted to say that I recognize how brave you are to be able to even share that. And also for our educators out there, there are many sapphires in their classrooms who are, I'm fine,
Mm-hmm.
and then they're not fine. And then you're seeing their behavior, and we are getting sometimes caught up in the behaviors and not in Sapphire's needs or the students' needs, right? And I know that for educators, sometimes it's like they're trying to serve so many youth and trying to keep the classroom safe. And it's not that they don't want to serve us, it is that they can be overwhelmed. And so having these tools and strategies really allows you all to be able to reach out for added supports if you need it, and also to be able to implement these strategies so that you can help when a child serve when a child has gone, I'm going to use this language, offline, or when their behaviors are not optimal. And that leads me to this. We had a skit where Sapphire, you were the student and I was the counselor and you were the teacher. And one of the things that stood out for me is that Sapphire, her character named that she got hungry, which made her hangry, and also that she had lots of bursts of energy. And what that made me think about is that sometimes we see a child's behavior and it might be, I'm going to use this language, unruly, and we're not realizing that, is that kiddo hungry? Are they tired? Are they creative? Or do they not know how to ground their energy? So when we were able to work through this together and I was able to teach her liftoff and landing, that was an awesome moment to show you all that you can also teach your students how to empower themselves and have these tools and techniques as well. And I wanted to ask you all, was there a portion of the skits that you were doing where it stood out to you and a light bulb went off and you're like, hey, I'm going to use this, or hey, that's helpful?
All of it.
All of it?
Same.
For me, anyways, all of it.
It was really all.
Yeah.
It was really all.
Yeah.
I think it was when me and Yane worked together, and when Yane was like, I don't think it's an accident. She did it on purpose. Well, why would she run away if she didn't do it on purpose? Why wouldn't she just tell me that? And, it's hard. It's hard to be like, well, sorry, and face people. And it's hard to face the truth sometimes. Or it's hard to own up because people, if you get in trouble a lot and you get punished harshly, then it's hard for you to be like, oh, well, sorry, I didn't mean to, because you're in the back of your mind, you're like, and people don't listen to you very often. Or they'll be like, well, it wasn't an accident. She didn't tell me it was an accident. She just ran away. Why wouldn't she just tell me that? And you're like, well, why didn't you try and talk to her?
Right.
Why didn't you go after her?
So in that skit, what did you learn?
Well, I think I learned that you can't just let them leave. You have to follow them.
Okay.
Because you never really know. And the fear cascade is a very cool thing and very resourceful thing. And I like it because it displays how people might have felt and how to change that.
Mm-hmm.
Because people might feel scared and they might submit. And it's easier to submit than to face it. And they need help to break out of their shell. Just like a hermit crab changes shells every so often, we need to learn how to as well, because we're so used to staying in our little bubble, and we need to learn how to go into a new one.
Thank you so very much. So, what can we all share in closing with our friends out there? What would you like them to know in terms of serving youth that live in foster care and serving youth?
I would love to start this one really quickly.
Please.
Yes. So I'm going to say the biggest thing that educators could take from just serving youth in general is to like assess the situation. When a kid comes in and you see that, I don't know, maybe they're just really hungry, and as mandated reporters, a lot of this starts with them. And if they could sit and have a conversation with Sapphire and her mom and see, like, she just needs some resources to food, instead of immediately going to calling 241 Kids and open up a 241 Kids case, that is where a lot of that comes from. So if you could just take that time to really assess the situation, what needs does that family need? Like, what resources do that family may need? Like, how can we actually help them? Every case don't need to go right to 241 Kids. Right. And as mandated reporters, I think they need to know, like, how can they assess that situation to actually see if that family is getting what they need, instead of, you know, maybe the mom is working 2 jobs and she's just doing the best that she can. Now she has even more on her plate, like, and it's just like those resources could have been given to her prior to that. Or even just like the youth that's just misbehaving, going through, talk to them, get to know them, see what their world is really like, see what's really going on in their world, and then see how you can help. But to just assume, to generalize, to just jump to worst case scenario, whether you're just, oh, they're just bad and you just write them off, or whatever it is, like, just take the time to really assess the youth and everything they got going on. And see if there's a way you can help before throw them off the cliff.
Great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else like to share?
I agree. One thing I would want teachers and supporters to know to better support youth is to, just not to have, like, I remember in school, they would give us Power Pack, and they would call us during school hours so everyone is able to know, you know, our business. And they'll just take us out of class for meetings with our social workers. And then people like, who's that lady you walk with? Or we missed recess, or we missed lunch. So it's like not putting us in these situations where everybody can know our business. And it's kind of like singling us out, like, oh, okay, you don't have food at home, so you got to get Power Pack. Like, I used to feel so irritated getting called to get Power Pack. But I really knew I needed the food, but it was times I would throw it away. I don't need this. I don't want this, because I didn't want to get looked at as poor or poverty, because those are some of the things that I got bullied for. So another thing I want teachers to know is, like, if a student comes to you and telling you you're getting bullied or they're getting picked on, do not go to the student and tell them that they are bullying you, because that is going to make them bully them worse.
Yes.
Like, I haven't really thought out exactly what I would like to happen, but for starters, I would just rather talk and sit with parents involved rather than y'all just going to the student, then telling them I'm the one who told y'all they was bullying me. So it just makes it worse for when I come back to school and when y'all not there. So just being attentive of that and some of the things that may go on that y'all may not see, like during recess and other things. So if I'm coming in down, if I'm coming in sad, you know, just really paying attention to that and really just taking in how we may feel and just not letting other people know our business.
And to add to that, if we're coming in tired and our head is down on the desks, why are we tired?
Right.
So
Again, assess them needs.
assess the needs.
Evaluate.
Only thing I have to say is that each youth is different. I have a daughter, and I am learning that she is different from me, but so much similar. Me, like, we're genders, yes, of course. So, but like, each personality is different. You can't approach the same youth you just did with the same approach to another youth.
Mm-hmm.
Like, got to code switch a little bit. I'm not sure if that's like should be the word I should say, but in order for you to feel both you and the youth feel that you guys are connecting,
Meet them where they are.
yes.
Meet
Like,
them where they are.
it's not always about the youth. Like, we're doing our part. You gotta do your part. If you're asking us to like meet you further, okay, we're gonna ask you to meet you further, and just it's all about understanding. It's a lot of one-sided understanding this, so that's why like a lot of children who are labeled bad or get sent to in-school suspension, acting out, but 9 times out of 10, I guarantee you, they are holding emotions that they don't feel comfortable speaking about. They don't feel comfortable trusting somebody with the knowledge of, or they feel like it's going to break everything in their life down into pieces.
Girl, yes, you're a preacher.
So it's like have companionship and understanding, and know when to pull that teacher card that you guys have. Because you pull it sometimes, but it don't be needed. It's like overboard. I know, because I was in high school and elementary. I also was one of those kids that had excessive behavior issues. Now I'm just a quiet person because I don't want I
don't want no trouble.
Yeah, I don't want no trouble.
Say peace.
It's just understand both sides.
Yes,
That's all.
I agree. And I also want to throw in there, knowing that we all don't have parents at home. I hated field trips. I hated the school book fair. I never got money for it. I never was able to participate in things that other students was able to participate. Oh, go home. Your parents will help with your homework. Nobody helped me with my homework. Nobody showed me, what to do or how to do. So just being mindful when you have those events, say when you got to bring in snacks for the class. I remember not being able to bring in nothing for the class, and I was feeling like I couldn't contribute. So just being mindful of that, and how you had to bring in wipes, tissues, pencils, all that school supplies. I remember I played sports, and we were supposed to get a new pair of shoes, and my foster parent was like, why you need 2 pairs of shoes? I already got to buy you 1. So just being mindful of that we all don't have the same resources at home to be able, but we still want to be included in these activities.
Right.
I just wanted to throw that in there as well.
Thank
And
you.
I also wanted to throw in really quick that thank you for also sharing and opening up. And we'll get to Sapphire before we close out. But I just wanted to pause and say that those that live in foster care, or those that have lived in foster care, when we are asked to share our experience and to share our story, it can also be traumatizing for us.
Absolutely.
Because we are opening our hearts, and it is not easy. So I do want to say that, and I know the whole team agrees, thank you. And I know that all of our friends out there are grateful for you sharing your expertise, because it is not easy. Because what people don't know is that when we go out in the parking lot, some big feelings can come up because we've talked about memories. So we might just have to hug it out when we get off camera.
Yeah.
But, I do just want to say thank you very much for your
Me too,
bravery
girl.
and for sharing. Yeah,
Me too,
sis,
girl.
I'm over here. If I start crying, these eyelashes are going to come up. Sapphire, why don't you bring us home, my friend? What would be our closing statement?
Well, I think what we've mostly covered is labels and how you look at us. And don't just look at us and see a person who you think needs pity, or you just need to go, oh, well, sorry. Because sometimes you need to look deeper. Because it's like a wound. It's always deeper than you think it is. And just like the pressure thing, if you throw a rock in an ocean, you never know how deep it goes. And so you should watch your words, because the words you say to us, they just go right down to our soul, and you really never know how deep that hits until they tell you.
Very true. I have a second grade teacher. I can still remember something that was said, and I'm very far past second grade. So, friends, thank you for everything. We want to also thank you, Mary.
Yes.
Thank you so very much, the team, for allowing us. Throwing up the hearts.
The hearts.
Our friends and family out there, we appreciate all the work that you do. You're on the front lines every day.
Yes.
you are essential. You are appreciated immensely, and we're just really grateful. So I think we had a good time. What do y'all think?
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
Yay.
So, friends, we've had some great conversations, and I know that the educators out there have probably been well nourished from what we've said. I'm curious to know, because who's in front of me, all of you amazing, phenomenal beings on the Youth Advisory Board, you are very, very resilient. You're very accomplished, very kind, and successful souls. And so, what did work for you in terms of the educators that have served you along your way? What worked and what didn't work? And how did you become who you are becoming constantly today?
Anybody want to start?
I can start. What pushed me through actually high school, elementary school, just through the whole entire school system, it's always one counselor at each school that I connect with. Like they knew my whole entire life. I felt like they were in that labor room with my mother. That's how deep that bond was. And it's always one counselor. Out of all the schools I went to, it's literally one counselor. So this particular, I'm talking about high school now, the particular counselor that I had, I got taken from school. So 2-for-1 Kids came and got me in the middle of school day and picked me up and told me I had to go. When I say I went AWOL, I literally went AWOL. I was like running through the whole entire school, up and down stairs. I was hiding in the bathrooms. I just didn't want to go. Then my counselor found me. I don't know how this lady found me. I swear.
Connection.
Like, I don't know how she found me. I was hiding underneath one of those it's not a pew, one in an auditorium, those seats. I was hiding under there. I didn't want to get caught. I didn't want to go. So she sat me down, and all she did was just hug me. She didn't say no words. She didn't say nothing. She just hugged me, and I just started crying, and I just started crying louder and louder and louder. I don't want to go. I don't want to go. I didn't even realize I was standing up, still crying, telling me I don't want to go. And she's just caressing me. It's okay. It's okay. You're still going to this school. I'm still going to be here. We got this together. That lady has been in my life.
That's beautiful.
From the time I was 14. I went to that high school in 2014. I was 14. I just turned 14, probably like 14 and 3 months. But she stuck with me all the way until I had my daughter last year, 23. That it's always one person in the school system that any youth, whether you're in foster care or you've been adopted or you're just, you're just in a loving family and you just need somebody because at that time you just don't know how to cope with whatever you're going through that's rocking your world. There's always going to be that one person. And if you are that somebody to that youth, never let them go. Never let them go. Because once you do, they might drop. Trust. I got let go and I dropped. First time ever going to the Justice Center. I dropped. Then she came back. And now I'm here.
Yes.
And as being here, it's bringing my trauma and foster care actually turning into, I'm alchemizing my pain into power.
Yes.
So this is amazing. You never know what to say, what you do to a youth. You can even just tap them on that shoulder, that touch, that might stay with them until the rest of their life. You just never know.
So being seen, it sounds to me like you felt very seen and supported.
Yeah, growing up with my mom, I was the oldest child with her, and I was also the mom. So I had a mom, we had a mom, but I was the mom. So I didn't know how to be a kid. I never got seen by my mom because she was never there. Granted, she was working, or half the time she was in an argument with her boyfriend at that time. So I never had a chance to get told anything that, a female youth would need from their mother. I never got hugs. Never got hugs. I never got a kiss on the shoulder. Never got told I love you. I tell my daughter every second of the day I love her because I never got to feel how that feels. And it makes me feel good just to tell my daughter
Yes.
after I just told her 30 seconds ago that I love her. Because I want her to.
We love you.
Yes,
Yes.
I love you.
Thank you.
No.
Thank you.
Like
Thank
seriously.
you.
No, for real.
Thank you. I had to grow up alone all of my life pretty much. My nana died at 6. I had left with my mom. Then something happened in my mom's house. Got put in my dad. Something that happened right after I went to my dad's house. Got put into foster care. So it's like it's all I know is me. So you will meet a youth like that as well, when all they know is themselves. That's all they're going to know. Even though they have people around them. They're not with them. They're around them. So it's not going to feel like you're whole. So when I had that counselor, she pretty much basically redirected me because I was going downhill. I first joined the YAB group at 16, 17. I was still going downhill. And I came back as an adult because I'm traveling up the hill now.
Yes.
There's no more going down. I don't have to put on my brake. Like, I'm going up. I don't need a brake to go up the hill.
Yeah.
You know what
I
it
just need to
sounds
accelerate.
like? Sounds like you were on that fair cascade.
Celebrity, if you ever fall down that hill, you know we're gonna catch you.
For sure.
We're gonna pull you
girl.
back up. We're gonna be like, nope, yoink.
We got you.
Nope, you are
We
not falling.
got you, girl. We got you.
And
For sure.
I needed to hear that. Because in the
sure.
back of my mind, there's always that thought
A little
of slipping.
doubt. Yeah.
Like, you know that the gas gonna run out, right? You know your brake gonna go out, right? Even though you don't use it, what happens is, like, you might gotta take a stop. It's gonna go out. It's gonna go out. Your door might fly off. It's gonna go out.
Something's gonna happen.
Something's gonna happen.
Well,
was
if
a-
your brakes come off, then just know somebody else's works.
We gonna kick you in, girl. Yes, we
and
got
be like,
you.
hey, move.
Yes,
And
we
then
got
they're just
you.
gonna push you up the hill.
Yeah, I agree with celebrity. For me, growing up, one of my biggest motivators was seeing the trauma and living through it. I got took at the tender age of 3, so it started really early for me, and I noticed like I didn't want that for me. I didn't want that for myself, so I really took hold of the books and education. I was always top of my class. I graduated top 10% in high school, got a gold court. So one thing that worked for me was being involved. I was involved in any and everything that I could be in. And during my involvement, as Celebrity said, I was able to find that one teacher. It was always either a teacher or a coach for me because I did a lot of sports. And they just wrapped their arms around me. And I feel like what set them apart from the other teachers was they we're told all the time to not mix business with pleasure, but they kind of seen it at a different light. They seen it as, you know, you're one of my child, you're one of my students, so I'm going to actually, you know, take the time to get to know you and help your situation and just be there for me. It's just like they took their job to a whole nother level. And I think that's kind of what we need. We need people that's, you know, able to take that extra step and really just get involved with their students. A lot of teachers, they don't really know their students. I mean, but they're overwhelmed. So, you know, I have to take that into account. But that and just being a part of a team, I think that's what really helped me. As I mentioned, I did a lot of sports. I was captain of my volleyball team, co-captain in the 8th grade. We went undefeated my senior year. So being a part of that team, it was just like having a family. So that is what helped push me by staying involved and staying connected. Even when I got to college, which was the hardest for me because I didn't, you couldn't just easily go get on the basketball team or go get on the volleyball team. And, you know, I had social anxiety, so it was hard for me to make friends and go out to the campus thing. So once I got involved with Hemi, and I got my mentor through Hemi, which was a mentoring thing that we used to have, is no longer here, but my mentor to this day, since 2019, she has kept in contact with me every birthday, every holiday, even Valentine's Day, y'all. She got me something, and it's like people like that, and it's like no matter what, I cut her out for 3 months. I was like, I don't want to talk to nobody, and she was okay with that. So having those adults that have that understanding and willing to just go that extra mile, that is what really helps. Even if you can't do it, but you know a counselor who maybe can, or even a coach or whatever that maybe can, like Celebrity said, hold on to those youth that y'all make an impact on. And do not forget them, because we will not forget you all.
Never.
Never. Nope.
For me, my teachers have always been understanding because, I always, talk to them. Except I never found counselors very helpful.
What would have helped you? What would help you?
Well, right now,
What did help you?
what helps me is surrounding myself with people who love me no matter what. And actually, this year, like 20 kids or so wanted to fight me. And, I was cool with it. I was like just walking the track and they were all behind me. I didn't care. I didn't care that they were behind me because I knew that I wasn't going to fight them. And so I was just okay with it because they weren't going to do anything. But then Aries and CJ stepped in and I held off CJ because he was easy to hold off. He was just like, he was tiny. Like not tiny as in like tiny, but he's tiny compared to me. Like his, I guess like push. You know what drives you? His is very tiny.
Real quick, too, also, you said something, and I wanted to expand on that. You said that you talk to your teachers.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know that you can? What signal do you get from them that lets you know that you can open up?
Well, some teachers, it's just that they reach out first. Like I had this one teacher, and like those teachers that are like assistant teachers that are always there to help children, and they're always just walking around. It's those mostly because they're not really like teachers.
So they reach out first.
So
to you?
when they're, and they're just like, do you need help? And I'm like, nope, I know all this. And then they're like, okay. And actually one of them, she brought her snake. And I was like, am I gonna hold it? And it was a corn snake and I loved it. And I held it for like most of the class and I was like, yay. And
How
like,
did she know that she could bring a snake? Did you tell her you liked snakes?
Yeah,
So
and
she
on the-
listened and she remembered.
yeah.
Awesome.
And then I told her
Active listening,
about
yes.
this Gills Club thing that I used to go to, but I kind of like aged out because I'm old.
You know.
But then I told her about it, and then she signed her daughter up for it. So I'm glad because I helped a little girl discover something that she might like in the future, and I got to hold her snake. And her snake,
What was her snake's name? Do you remember?
it was like something like corny or something because it was
Something corny.
It was like a field, I think. It was like a corn snake. Its name was Field or something.
One of the things I've heard you say, and it's kind of been consistent, it's the value and the importance of people listening. And it seems
It
like
is.
that's important to you.
Yeah, because everyone wants people to listen to them.
Yeah.
They don't want you to just be like, did you say something? Sorry, I was completely zoned out.
So it's being present, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they call it a gift, because it's very present. And I want to thank you for that share, and thank you all for that share. And I'll say for me, what I remember is what was really helpful were teachers that understood that everyone is a student and a teacher. So I had an educator, I'll call him Dr. B. And Dr. B, he taught me that. He said, Mel, I can learn a lot from you as well. You're an expert in your lived experience. Please teach me.
Wow.
And he said, because everyone is a student and a teacher. And he told me, and I'm humble enough at 60 years old to say that. And it stuck with me.
Wow.
And so that was what was really helpful for me. Yeah.
I think early on I decided I was just gonna faint and submit and be what everybody wanted me to be. And I did that up until my sophomore year. And then my sophomore year, my freshman year I had the same teacher, but she was specifically my English teacher. And she had been my English teacher every year, actually. But she was my person she became my person. But my freshman year, I didn't like her. When I say I was terrible in her class, I intentionally went out my way to make her job difficult. And one thing that really stuck with me is she never gave up on me. Like, she always welcomed me with open arms. She always just kept that inviting thing, and it wasn't like I didn't come in the next day and she was just like, oh, you were standing on my tables yesterday. It was like all of that was erased, and I'm just Jaleesa coming in a whole new day, and that meant a lot to me because of them labels, right? We keep them labels and they go, but every day she erased my label. She erased what I did the day before, and she started new with me every day. She was also the one who taught me the power of my writing, because I had a lot of, I'm going to call it anger, but I've learned since this training that it's not anger, it's energy. I had a lot of energy, and she was the one that showed me how I can do that. And writing, it's always been like a strong suit, but I've never oh, I'm going to write this down. But she was the one that's like, write about it, put it in writing. And she really, really pushed that on me. And that was something that helped me start learning to cope. And then it's like my sophomore year, I was like, you know what? I actually do want to be better. I'm like, the way I'm moving right now, I'm going to end up just like my parents. And to be transparent, my mom was a prostitute and my dad's been in prison my whole life. And I was literally like, when I say I was following in their footsteps, I was very promiscuous. I didn't care. Nobody could tell me nothing. And it took me kind of just like having that moment of like, wow, you're actually going to end up just like them. So with her support, I wanted to be better. And she showed me how. And it was just channeling my energy differently. And another thing, she never forced it. I think that's another big thing that educators could learn from. She never forced that relationship. She never was like in my face, like, let me be there for you. It was just at my own pace. It was whenever, but she always let me know that she was there, she was around. And then I was actually put into independent living when I was 16. They didn't give me any life skills. I knew nothing. They put me in an apartment and said, this is yours. Maintain it. And still go to school and still do this. So here I am, 16-year-old in my own apartment, trying to figure out how to maintain a home. Yeah. Mind you, I've never had anything of my own, ever. So it was just, but she was right there. She got me a crock pot. She got me a crock pot cookbook. And there was just like them really small things where she just like really went out her way to like just support me and be there. And then with all of that, I just kind of started seeing my own potential, and I started seeing what I can do. And that's honestly what's been driving me ever since. I am, too, that person, that adult I wish I had, that safe adult that I wish I had. I'm that parent that I wish I had. I actually started the Youth Advisory Board from scratch. So to see the family that I've built, like when I say, like, and I'm not going to try not to get emotional, but it's been like that, it drives me. Like, so when we're like going to state hearings and meeting with all these youth organizations and actually like influencing policy change and trying to improve the foster care system. And I meet youth like us, you know what I mean? And we've just built a whole board, and we connect, and it's just like, so it just keeps me going. But yeah, just trying to be better than I was yesterday. That at this point, that's literally what keeps me going. And we just be making it happen. Make it happen.
I honor you. Yeah, I honor you all.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you for taking the time to check out these strategies. Hopefully, they are of assistance to you as you do this important and very difficult work every day. Our goal today was to build connection, relationship, because to embrace the power of relationship will change not only psychology, not only education, but society as well. If you would like more information or for some free resources, or if you even have questions, please reach out to us at our website or find us on social media. Thanks again for joining us.